We are live, I think. This is Kenneth Arthur, and I am Seaside Joe. And this is going to be the 2022 NFL Draft. Thank you for joining me out there. Those of you out there, I'm very excited to share this experience with you and to talk about what the Seahawks are going to do. Please send me your comments, anything that you have to say. I'll keep my eyes out and open to those comments, the section all throughout the draft here on day one. And we have the first two picks already. If you didn't know, I think you probably do know because the news is fast and furious, as you are aware of. Looks like the Texans have also made their pick as I'm saying this. So the Texans pick is going to be quite a shocker, I think, to some people, although it did start to seem more and more probable here as we got closer to the draft. First, the Jaguars did the thing that people were talking about for so long. The Jaguars have selected Trayvon Walker out of Georgia. Didn't have a lot of on-field production there at Georgia for the best defense any of us probably have seen in our lifetimes, college football speaking wise. And now he goes to the Jaguars. Best case scenario, they say Alvin Smith. Worst case scenario, maybe, Cleveland Farrell, So there's also that middle ground of Jadeveon Clowney or something. Overall, though, I think the Jaguars, they've got different coaches in there. They've got a new GM, even though Trent Baalke, for those of you who remember, he wasn't the worst GM ever when he was with the 49ers. But I'm not surprised that San Francisco had the collapse that they did following the firing of Jim Harbaugh, or the separation of Jim Harbaugh. And then when they chose to stick with Trent Baalke, which is what they did. And so they did stick with Trent Baalke, did the 49ers, and then they fired him eventually and started over. And now Baalke is back with the Jaguars, and their head coach is Doug Peterson. And so they get Trayvon Walker. I always expected it to be defense, really, because I think you just give Trevor Lawrence the respect on offense and say this is like, I don't know, it sounds weird to say, but I just think like there's so much pressure wrapped up into that number one pick. Just have your number one pick on offense, have your number one pick on defense. If you have to go back-to-back in a couple of years, you look at the Browns with Myles Garrett and then Baker Mayfield. Obviously, the Baker Mayfield pick didn't work out as they expected it to, but I think Trevor Lawrence is a much better prospect than Baker Mayfield was. So as for the Jaguars, if you care about that, then that's my take, I guess. Trayvon Walker, I don't know. It's really just sort of a shot in the dark pick if you're Jacksonville. Not a shot in the dark, but it's like there's probably 7 or 8 other guys that if you'd taken him number one, that's totally justifiable. Like if you take Jameson Williams, maybe a wide receiver doesn't have the kind of value that you expect out of, say, a dominant pass rusher, a dominant quarterback, a dominant pass protector, or even maybe a dominant cornerback. I think I would rather have a dominant receiver than a dominant cornerback, to be honest. And I think Jameson Williams is going to be a dominant receiver. So, you could go that direction, but there's just nobody that really screams to be the number one pick. So that's what Trayvon Walker gets to be in 2022. And it starts off the draft with the pick that a lot of people had said was going to happen for the last couple of weeks. And then all of a sudden, last minute, people were saying, maybe it's not Trayvon Walker. I love that this blur can take out. I guess it just knows not to blur out faces, which I didn't really plan for. But I got the draft on behind me. I hope I don't get shut down or anything by YouTube because I did blur it out. So I got Trayvon Walker going number one to the Jaguars. And then number 2, Aiden Hutchinson stays with the state of Michigan and goes to the Lions. Seems like a very safe pick for the Lions to add a pass rusher who was super productive at Michigan and then had all the athleticism that you would ask for in a pass rusher and, seems to be just an all-around very good defensive end that the Lions just rarely ever have any guy like that. And so now they have that guy. And so after adding Penny Sewell last year, and the Lions still have a first-round pick this year at number 32, and then they've got two next year as well, because they also have the Rams first-round pick next year. So the Lions go with Aiden Hutchinson. And as you can see, the face bobbing up behind me is Derek Stingley. So the Texans select Derek Stingley. I'm not, surprised, I guess, that Derek Stingley is the number 3 pick in the draft. I would just say he's got a lot of, he got a foot injury. He doesn't have he's not Jalen Ramsey in his size, in his length, even in his speed and athleticism. And he didn't really do much in the last 2 years. But you come out of high school and you just go into college football and you dominate the SEC receivers as a true freshman. That's going to carry you for a while. Didn't really carry Justin Ross, at Clemson, who will probably be like a day 3 pick. But Derek Stingley could be a shutdown corner, right away. Maybe Patrick Surtain at least. Those sort of expectations make sense to me. Any comments you got, just go ahead and throw them there if you want into the chat. I got Mookie Alexander coming to join me right before the Seahawks pick at 9. If they do stick and pick at 9, Mookie Alexander of Field Goals. So he'll also be here to chat about whatever Seattle does and what the Seahawks could do and what could happen after the Seahawks either trade down or make a pick. I've been promoting Jordan Davis all day. So we'll see if it's Trayvon Walker's teammate, Jordan Davis. And, that Georgia defense, just off the top of my head, you're talking about Trayvon Walker as the number 1 pick. You're talking about Jordan Davis, who could be a top 10 pick. You're talking about Devontae Wyatt, could be top 10, top 15. All those guys playing there on the defensive line. Adam Anderson is a guy that would have gone in the first round, but has some extremely concerning off-field issues right now, and who knows how far that'll drop him in the draft. But that's how talented that they were, just in terms of first-round picks and stuff. If not for all that off-field stuff, then you've got the linebackers with Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker and Channing Tindall. All of those guys getting second round consideration for sure, and Dean and Walker getting first round consideration. And then you got Lewis Seen, the safety. There's just ridiculous talent on that Georgia defense. So Paul Smith putting out the first comment of the day. Thank you, Paul Smith. I apologize for that yell. It's just kind of I had no control over it. Wow, Stingley before Sauce. Sounds like a Muhammad Ali quote. But Stingley did come before Sauce. I think that was just based on the fact that Derek Stingley, one of the top-rated high school recruits of all time, then goes to LSU, which is known as a DB university, is facing off in practice against wide receivers of a first-round caliber like Justin Jefferson, and just dominant. So, I think that as compared to coming out of Cincinnati, who I can pull up, maybe we can do some screen sharing here today. Go Seahawks. Penguins are so rad. Tell me what you think of Penguins down there in the comments. I was just watching the Batman. I've been watching the Batman over the course of several days, and there's a penguin in that. So, go Seahawks. We'll see what happens here for the Seahawks. But Derek Stingley, just a very dominant freshman season there. And then, I've been saying this too, though, because it's like Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater, Micah Parsons. There's more names on this list. But all those guys that opted out of the 2020 season and then entered the 2021 draft. And there was talk of like, well, how much has that impacted or affected how they will perform in the NFL? And what did we see? Jamar Chase and the season he had. Rashawn Slater in the season that he had. Micah Parsons in the season that he had. You got to get to that point now where you're wondering if you're a top-ranked prospect in your freshman, sophomore season, like a Bryce Young, like a C.J. Stroud, like a Jackson Smith and Jigba, you go on and on, Xavier Worthy, Bijan Robinson, there's a lot of guys in college football who next year will be top 5, top 10 picks. Well, not a lot, 5 or 10. But there's a lot of guys in college football who are just like, wow, get this guy in here right now, Michael Mayer. Get this guy in the NFL right now because he's good to go. We don't want him to get hurt. We don't want to see anything bad happen to him. And so Derek Stingley, those last 2 years, just not really being a part of, just not really being a part of college football that much the last couple of years. And look, it didn't hurt his draft status whatsoever. He's one of the highest drafted cornerbacks of all time is Derek Stingley. So what are guys really doing playing those years out between the time that they solidify themselves as top prospects and the draft? Will Anderson there at Alabama, it's like if he was in this draft, he'd be the number 1 pick, which you could say about Young and Stroud and maybe Smith and Jigba, so it's like, there are guys in college football right now that are just risking their lives for nothing, other than I guess football, because it's just so interesting to think about what these guys are playing for when on the other end of that success, which, hey, look, that's cool. You want to have success in college, just like you have pride in your team and the field and your teammates, and you don't want to let people down. And that's cool. That's fine. But on the other end of that is $40 million. Trayvon Walker is just by being the number 1 pick. Trayvon Walker is going to make $40 million on his contract as a rookie. I'm looking here. I want to share my screen. There we go. Oh, look, see The Office on YouTube TV. I didn't know you could do that. But look at Derek Stingley here. Just 10 games played in the last 2 years. He had some tackles for a loss. He hasn't had an interception since his freshman campaign. Didn't really pick off any NFL quarterbacks, at that time. But, that doesn't really necessarily mean anything. We got the lobster special tonight. We got a penguin in here. We got a lobster in here. That's the Seaside Joe promise stamp of approval to you, is that if you're a sea creature, I want to see your face, okay? Because that's what we got here at Seaside Joe. With both quarterbacks going early, that makes it more likely that one of the pass rushers will be there at number 9. Yeah, lobster, my mind is just racing to the point where it's like I really am not even looking at a board here. I got to get up my big board. Why don't we pull up a big board right now, and I'll share that. I think we can go to the NFL mock draft database. I'll share this tab instead. And going here on the NFL mock draft database, we know Aiden Hutchinson's gone. We know Trayvon Walker is gone. We know that Derek Stingley is gone. And we know that the Jets have selected Sauce Gardner. They wanted to make sure that they didn't, because, the Jets are coming up at 10, but they could be trading around. But they wanted to make sure that after Derek Stingley was taken, they didn't miss out on Sauce Gardner. So here comes, Sauce Gardner. Stephen Patel, seeing you in the comments there on Seaside Joe. Stephen, thank you for those, and thank you for joining the live stream. Agreed, some drafts penalize a team for taking a bust at number 1 or any first-round pick. Absolutely, so it's just it's hard to say what any of these players will turn into. I just evaluate them as prospects, so it's just like looking at the resume, just like you would interview somebody. And you interview 100 people for a job, the truth is you won't hire the right person probably. If you had 100 people, the odds of you picking the exact right person are not going to be very good. The odds of you maybe picking, I think your best odds are just like, hopefully you pick one of the top 10, if not one of the top 5 out of those 100 candidates. So for the NFL draft, if you really narrow down, like, who are the guys totally eligible in your mind to go number 1 if you're the Jaguars, or number 4 if you're the Jets, and you've got that list of 10 or 15, maybe 30 guys, and you start narrowing it down and paring it down. Hopefully out of the next 40 picks that come off here, you come out with one of the top 5 players, and that's really the job of the team. It just means you have more options, but as we see time and time again, teams continuously blow it. Let me know, like, what network are you watching the draft on? Let me know where you're following the draft online. If you've got like a big board or a draft tracker that you like to use, I'm curious to hear what people are doing, because there's such an insane amount of draft coverage because of social media and YouTube and stuff. Obviously, like, I've got people here watching what I do, which is amazing. Thank you for being here. The fact that there's anybody here, just it means that my time, your time is being spent with me. That's a very gracious and kind of you, because there's just so many people doing streams. There have been 50,000 mock drafts in the last 24 hours alone that I was just like, well, why am I going to make them? Nobody wants. There's just too much. The Giants have made their pick. I don't want to like tip any picks or whatever, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't want to tip any picks. On the other hand, it's like you're watching a live stream. I assume you kind of know what's going on, and I don't even know. It seems like I'm a little behind. We got a young man here about to announce the Giants pick at 5. Giants got a pick at 7. The Giants have made a pick here at 5. It's kind of what I expected. At one point, I just at like the position I wrote there at Seaside Joe. By the way, if you wandered over here, if you made it over here, seasidejoe.substack.com. That's where I do all my Seahawks draft coverage, Seahawks rebuilding coverage, a daily free Seahawks newsletter, multiple times a day sometimes, and sometimes there's some premium posts there, but for the most part, it's pretty much free, as you guys all know. So we've got Greg Wess on. Welcome, Greg. He says, as an Oregonian, it'd be cool to see Thibodeau go to the Hawks. Okay, it's time for me to tip a pick. The Giants select Kayvon Thibodeau. So Kayvon Thibodeau, a steal for New York at number 5, I think. And Joe Shane, he is a guy that I wrote about briefly on Seaside Joe, just saying like his history or the history of the general managers he's worked for have pretty much stuck to like edge and cornerback, and that would be like sort of their highest valued positions on the defensive side of the ball, especially like here at the top 10, top first round consideration. You saw the cornerbacks go 3-4. So Kayvon Thibodeau had fallen there after Walker and Hutchinson had gone. So that makes sense then why Thibodeau is the pick for the Giants. I was not surprised to see how much he's liked. Paul Smith, watching it work with my phone with Sports Blocker on a work PC. I don't know what Sports Blocker is. But the Seahawks could use a sports blocker. It's called the left tackle now, right? Lobster Special, just ESPN and this stream. Thank you for watching. Especially, what ocean are you in? Tell me what body of water you're in. Is it salty? It is only on ABC here since I don't have a lot of channels. Yeah, I got that ABC stream going too, Steven. I got that ESPN, ABC stream. The media got the first part pretty accurately. I don't know. Stingley 3. That's a surprise. I mean, it was Stingley to the Texans is not surprising. A lot of people just expected it to happen at 13. It's not surprising that Stingley went number 3. When you look at it, you go like, okay, that does make sense. It's not surprising that Sauce went 4 to the Jets. Pretty much at all. Yeah, you're right there. So Kayvon Thibodeau, not surprising. But I would say the top 5, the order has been a little bit surprising after the top 2, even though that didn't feel super predictable. So let's talk about which players are left on the board here as we go 6, 7, 8 until the Seahawks are on the clock. Evan Neal, Ike Ekwonu. So the offensive line remains untouched with Neal and Ekwonu. Is that a good thing for the Seahawks? Is Jermaine Johnson going to be the pick? Now that we've seen, edge players fall off the board, is Jermaine Johnson going to go before Seattle? Let me know what you think about the remaining players available. Todd, Larry, you're saying OT is still on the board. You're absolutely right. The entire complement of OT. Panthers are on the clock. They've got 3 minutes left as I write this. And so I think that's kind of going to tell us a lot here. The Panthers, as many people have said, they don't pick again until I think 137 or so. So, trading down, teams that want to trade up, the Eagles are often mentioned. The Chiefs were mentioned as a team that wants to move up all the way from the back of the first round for a wide receiver. You're looking at the board here for wide receivers. Let me share the wide receiver board, because this could be a place where the Panthers trade down with a partner who's looking for a wide receiver. You've got Garrett Wilson. You've got Drake London. You've got Jameson Williams. You've got advertisements, ads, buy. Does anybody watch this ever? Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Jameson Williams, he's my guy. Chris Olave, who the draft guys that I love to watch are Boom or Bust, the draft show. One of them is a Washington fan. I don't want to say the name of the team. It's so stupid. Washington fan. And he's saying that Chris Olave is the guy that Ron Rivera desperately wants. So you might see Chris Olave go ahead of even Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams. Been some bad PR out there for Treylon Burks, it sounds like, this day. Kenny is surprised. You're damn straight. I'm a local Puget Sound lobster. That's good to hear, man. I hope you, man, woman, I hope you don't get eaten until the draft is over. And, I hope that it doesn't hurt if it's a boiling situation. Can't look at sports pages at work, so using USA Today to bypass work website blocking makes sense. You got a crawfish lobster. The only lobster in the Puget Sound is crawfish. Good facts to know. Panthers getting their crappy QB. Is that the case? I can't imagine it. I just can't. After I didn't know what the hell was going on when they decided to sign Teddy Bridgewater. I didn't know what the hell was going on when they decided to trade a second-round pick and more for Sam Darnold. And I just don't imagine, that is the nail in the coffin if you go with Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis, you would think at this point. I just can't. Hopefully no salt, but we'll see at number 9. Hey, you got me there, lobster special. Could be salty depending on what happens, but I think the board looks pretty good. I still think that Jordan Davis would be a guy that makes a lot of sense. Is there anything about this board? Do y'all think? Let me know. Is there anything about this board so far in the way that the 5 picks have gone that makes you think that trading down becomes an easier possibility? Anything there? Because if you're looking at it and saying I still see 6 or 7 players on the board who I really like for the Seahawks, is that something where you think that the Seahawks could be more likely to trade down? I still think it may be a little difficult for any team to trade down. What is going on here with social media? My son says, hi, Kenny. His name is Tristan. Hey, Tristan. I hope, that you're enjoying the draft. Who does Tristan want the Seahawks to get? Is anybody there that, because Bobby Wagner, Russell Wilson's gone. When guys like that leave, I think fans are always sort of well, where's the next Russell Wilson or Bobby Wagner? So I could see there being some sort of hope there for a linebacker or a quarterback. Obviously, linebacker isn't expected to go that early. Devin Lloyd to the Seahawks. I mean, it's not like that would be a bad pick again, right? It's not a need. It's not necessarily the best thing to do at this juncture, but it is a great player who could potentially do a lot of very good things. Got Robert Griffin here on ABC. Robert Griffin, has anyone ever made such a seamless transition from playing to broadcasting? So seamless that I still think he's in the NFL. Is that true? It seems like Robert Griffin was he's broadcasting his own games at this point. That's where RG3 has somehow made that seamless transition from just like being an NFL player who still wants to start a quarterback to sometimes filling in for the Ravens while calling his own games. So we got to see what the Panthers do. The Panthers pick is in, and if you were waiting for the first offensive tackle to get drafted, wait no more. Carolina looking for an offensive tackle. They found an offensive tackle, maybe. Ike Ekwonu going to Carolina. I've had a lot of texts with a Panthers fan over the last couple of weeks, the last few weeks. Andrew, if you're out there, this is what you wanted. You didn't want a quarterback. You got an offensive tackle. Ike Ekwonu seems to be a good one. So now we can move our board down here. And knowing that Evan Neal, the highest rated player remaining on the board, Sauce Gardner, gone. Stingley, gone. Kyle Hamilton, Charles Cross, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson, Drake London, Jameson Williams, Jordan Davis, Malik Willis, Chris Olave, Trent McDuffie, Trevor Penny. I mean, yeah, all the guys, all the names. A lot of things left to do. Evan Neal. How are you guys feeling about Evan Neal and how close he is to the Seahawks? Yeah, I mean, if the Texans want to move up from 13 to 9, who do you think that they would be targeting? Kyle Hamilton? I mean, you know, really, really going hard on that secondary. If you go Stingley, Hamilton, would they be trading up for a tackle? Because there's all that talk about just whether or not Titus Howard is going to be at right tackle. I don't think you choose Charles Cross in that situation. Is it a wide receiver? Knowing that, you know, the Texans, they don't really have that many star players at all. So you could really do any direction at all. If you're Houston, you could go Jermaine Johnson. If I was the Texans, you know, I would definitely be targeting Jameson Williams for that offense. RG3 is the next backup for the Hawks. You know, I think they got enough backups. In fact, they only have backups. So, yeah, until they want the next backup, they're going to have to pare down some of their current backups because they have about 15 of them. The Seahawks are just, it's really rolling now, and I think we'll be joined here by Mookie any moment now. Going to do one of those email follow-ups. And so when we get Mookie in here, we know that this is on. Ike Ekwonu, the Giants. So what the thing is with the Giants at pick 7, these rookies are not that cheap. So the Giants don't have any cap space. They've got the least amount of cap space in the NFL. But they've picked Kayvon Thibodeau. That should make them presumably a little bit better. And they pick a guy here for their offense. We know that the Giants are not picking up Daniel Jones' 5th-year option. So they don't really have any faith there in the quarterback position. I don't know that that means that the Giants would pick a quarterback here, but somebody to help the offense certainly has to be in play. You've got Evan Neal on the board. If the Giants come away with Thibodeau and Neal, 2 guys who were in consideration many times for the number 1 pick, you would think that's a pretty good haul for the Giants. Brian Daboll in his first year there. And, you know, give Daniel Jones 1 more year, because if it doesn't really matter that much with the 5th-year option. The 5th-year option for Daniel Jones is probably, and this is off the top of my head, probably like $18 to $20 million. If he plays well and you have to give him the franchise tag, you know, it's like $30 million or something. So it is getting exorbitant, and it is certainly a risk. But there aren't any quarterbacks here for the Giants, so I think they got to be trying to trade down hard. But the pick is in, so I guess they didn't successfully trade down. What are the Giants going to do here? What's your guess that we trade down at this point? I still look at it, and I think it might be difficult to trade down. Depends who the Giants are picking, and if the Panthers stay where they are. It could also be like, if you're a team looking at this board, you're trying to talk to Atlanta about trading up over Seattle. Why would you want to trade up over Seattle? That depends. That depends, because I need to know if Evan Neal is on the board. If Evan Neal is on the board, I would say maybe a team is trading up for Evan Neal. If Evan Neal falls off the board, I I guess a team would be trading up maybe in case they were worried the Seahawks were interested in Jermaine Johnson or, again, Jordan Davis, and not wanting to maybe they value Davis more than Devontae Wyatt. Maybe they don't. Maybe the teams don't really value them any differently, which is probably true. I think it just depends on what attributes you're looking for in a defensive tackle. I love Jordan Davis, but Devontae Wyatt is almost as impressive. So the Giants have made their pick, and it's not going. So I'm going to do this. I mean, why am I going to do this? This is the remaining board because Evan Neal is going to the Giants. Brian Dable and Joe Sean, he has come away with two of the best prospects, arguably the top two prospects in this draft, depending on who you talk to, Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. I mean, the number one tackle prospect, I think, for me, would have been Evan Neal. And the number one edge rusher prospect for me would have been Kayvon Thibodeau. So if the Seahawks could have had a perfect draft, I think it would have been what the New York Giants just did, which is get Thibodeau and Neal. What are your grades there, I guess, for the Giants? Is it just a slam dunk? I think that the Falcons have been mocked to a wide receiver so many times, but I just don't think that wide receiver is as big of a need as an edge player, a linebacker. So for the Falcons, I would think maybe Jermaine Johnson, honestly. But do the Falcons need a wide receiver? Sure, and there's a lot of good ones. That's also part of the problem, that there's a lot of good ones. And I think that's another reason why the Falcons would love to trade down here. You ask yourself, why would a team be trading up? You look at it, you look at the board, the teams on the board, and you think to yourself, okay, the Jets, would they need to skip over the Seahawks to get Jermaine Johnson? Possibly, possibly. I think the Falcons would I think the Falcons would love to get down this board, because when you look at it, you just go, well, what's the worst case scenario? They come away with Drake London or something. And also just keep in mind that Calvin Ridley probably won't be suspended for the entire season. Calvin Ridley may not have a long-term future with the Falcons, which is another problem. But he'll appeal his suspension, and he may get it reduced to 4 games, and then we just move on from the whole Calvin Ridley situation. But they still need better players and wide receivers and stuff like that. So I would think that the Falcons really want to trade down here. It's just a matter of finding whether or not there's value there to trade down. But Jordan Davis remains on the board. If Jordan Davis is the pick, selfishly, I'm going to be very excited, because that's, for me, that's what I said would happen. That's right, Todd. Evan Neal is the pick for the Giants. If Jermaine Johnson is gone, I prefer trade down. Anyone want to jump the Jets for a wide receiver? You're right. I just don't. What wide receiver makes you that? For me, it's Jameson Williams, but he's got the ACL injury, and so I have to take that into account too. So it's just like, what wide receiver panics you at this point if you don't get him? Because it's like, you've got Drake London, you've got Jameson Williams. Look at this board, everybody. Look at this board of wide receivers. What is happening here? I gotta pop up. Look at this board. Wilson, London, Williams, all of those guys could easily be the number one receiver in this class. Burks could be the number one receiver in this class. Jahan Dotson compares to Tyler Lockett. Olav's, he might be more polished, better route runner than even Garrett Wilson. Sky Moore, a lot of first-round consideration, maybe just a stud, honestly. George Pickens, some people would say a top 10 pick, if not for, his lack of playing, basically. But possibly a top 10 pick, George Pickens. Christian Watson compares athletically to Calvin Johnson. He just comes from North Dakota State, and it's total projection as far as how he'll do against NFL competition and refine his game, and whether or not, what's he going to be. John Mechie, towards ACL, otherwise maybe a first-round pick. Alec Pierce, that's a guy who has had a lot of praise throughout the process, and then he could have a really high ceiling. Calvin Austin, extremely fast. Jalen Tolbert, again, another guy coming from a small school who has exceptional tools. David Bell, I don't know why he's so high up here as compared to what I've seen to most big boards and stuff like that. But it's also understandable. Productive from day one at Purdue, and he did it at Purdue. and he doesn't have any athletics, but good measurements and stuff like that. But just a really good football player. The Falcons pick is in, so the Seahawks are going to be on the clock with whatever board is on the board after the Falcons pick. Falcons could be picking a wide receiver. I'm going to say Falcons are taking Jermaine Johnson because I just think that they have a bigger need at edge than they do at wide receiver. So I'm going to say it's Jermaine Johnson. You could also argue, could you argue Charles Cross? You could, because they need the right tackle. They're all set on left tackle. And you just have to hope that Charles Cross is going to be a good right tackle. In Arthur Smith's offense, though, I don't know if that really makes a ton of sense to me. So maybe not. I think it's Jermaine Johnson. Nope, it's a wide receiver. I should have just gone with I should have just gone with wide receiver because it is a need, and they can get the best one that they have on their board, and that is Drake London. So the Falcons have chosen Drake London. The Seahawks are on the clock. Who do you want? Tell me. Who do you want? Oh, we got Mookie. Mookie, the Seahawks are on the clock. Quick, tell me your thoughts of who's available and what to do.
I'm nervous with two things. Kyle Hamilton still being on the board and Jermaine Johnson as well. I would rather they trade down. This draft order so far didn't exactly work out in the Seahawks' favor with Iquano off the board, Neal off the board, and as well as Stingley and Gardner. So I feel like they're going to be the first team to trade down. I mean, nobody's traded yet. I mean, this is a lot different than drafts past. So the wild card, I see Steven in the comments is saying Jordan Davis. I wouldn't be thrilled with that pick, even though I really like Jordan Davis, but it doesn't address Seattle's biggest need. So let's see how this goes. Kenneth, I'm going to assume you're probably ahead on your television feed than I am because I've been consistently 45 seconds behind on my cord-cutting broadcast here.
Yeah, I have the ABC. Actually, I'm a cord cutter. I got the antenna, so I got ABC streaming on the antenna. But the Seahawks have 6:46 left on the clock as of me saying this sentence. So I think trade down has to be on the table, right? So we haven't seen any trades today, and that may indicate that there isn't a ton of desperation yet. And I don't know if there's anyone to be desperate for at this point. Obviously, my pick has been all day. It's been Jordan Davis. I think he has an immediate impact for the Seahawks, as well as a long-term ceiling that could be higher than maybe any other player in this draft. But at the same time, there's that floor. There's that other part of it where you're saying this is your first top 10 pick in so long. And, are you passing on a potential left tackle for a long-term future like Charles Cross? Are you passing on a potential 15-sack guy or a very impactful pass rusher like Jermaine Johnson? And, for me, for my money, it's like there's some really exciting wide receivers in this draft, and you could have a whole other possibility of the future and how to maneuver Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf moving forward, how to attract, and support a quarterback that you add in the future. And then I guess we haven't even talked about it yet as time winds down, but quarterback is a possibility, right?
Yeah, it is. And if they don't take a quarterback, then looking at the draft order, it might be a while because we went all defense the first 5 picks, which hasn't happened in 30 years. And this is not a banner year, I think, for first-round offensive talent. So I think that kind of makes sense. So we're just waiting. We're waiting for the graphic to change. Is the pick in?
The pick's not in yet. We got 4:50 left on the clock. Everybody in the comments.
Pete Carroll and his clock management again.
Yeah, I if you got comments, put your comments out there. Seahawks fans, the board, I've got it up here on the screen. I know you're distracted by Michael Scott, but look to his right. And you've got Kyle Hamilton, which doesn't really make any sense for the Seahawks. You got Charles Cross. A lot of people talked about it. My thing with Charles Cross, I mean, maybe I'm overrating certain things here, but he had the worst. If you're looking at stuff like broad jump, vertical, all that kind of stuff, his testing would be so much worse than anyone else that the Seahawks ever played at left tackle under Pete Carroll. And going back all the way to Russell Okung, Dwayne Brown, all the guys that have come through. He just doesn't even come close to those thresholds. And he didn't do any really run blocking at college. And that's just something that the Seahawks are planning to do a lot of. So he needs more run blocking reps. And so it's not, he could be the pick because the Seahawks don't have any tackles. And that makes sense in that sense. But you've got Jermaine Johnson on the board, who a lot of people have been mocking to the Seahawks. I know Rob Staten at Seahawks Draft Blog has been talking a lot about Jermaine Johnson, and here he is available on the board. The idea of him being a top 5 pick never made any sense to me. And even him being a number 9 pick doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And then, the wide receiver is just so talented. But we've seen Drake London just go off the board here to the Falcons. We've got Garrett Wilson. My favorite is Jameson Williams. It's just such a deep class, though, that if you wait until the second round, if that's really something that you want, Sky Moore, and if in the 3rd or 4th round, I love Khalil Shakir out of Boise State. Just so much depth there. Christian Watson, you just don't know what you could possibly get later on. Moving down here, it just thinks that the trade down situation where you could be looking at a Trevor Penny or a Jordan Davis or a cornerback, Trent McDuffie, Kyler Gordon, George Karlaftis. There's just so many options moving down. 3 minutes left.
Boy, that even taken this long, I'm getting the feeling that they're trying to work the phones for a trade down, because almost everybody else has been getting their pick in like 10 seconds, and they're just stalling for time for TV reasons.
100%.
It would be extremely on brand if they took Penny. Again, I mocked him in the SB Nation Writers mock draft, and several others have. So Todd is saying Seattle is drafting, so they are making a pick.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. Well, we'll see how this goes. If they take Devin Lloyd, and I like Devin Lloyd a lot, that would absolutely stun me, because the last thing they need is to address linebacker first and foremost. They already did that a couple of years ago. I know they need depth. They could get it later on. If they take a quarterback, if they take Malik Willis in the top 10 or Ritter, that again, I wouldn't be too keen on. If Metcalf had been dealt, hypothetically, I would have gladly accepted Treylon Burks or any of Ohio State's wide receivers. Yep, the pick is in. So I know we're working behind a lot of other people due to it's hard to not spoil picks for people because of the cord cutting rise and everything else that's going on.
It is, but it is what it is. We're all at this point, we're all aware of our realities and how we've set ourselves up to either watch something, to either you're going to get spoiled. By now, that if you're watching this, you could be spoiled. But the Seahawks pick is in, but they haven't gone up to the podium yet. Last minute, I just think I'll stick to my guns and say Jordan Davis is such a Seahawks guy. He's such a Pete Carroll guy. He immediately is a week 1 starter if the Seahawks pick him. Starter in the sense that you can put him out there on first and second downs almost immediately. And I think he will disrupt passes, and the passing downs and stuff like that eventually. But Jordan Davis, Jermaine Johnson, just because the Seahawks, I don't think they have enough there at outside linebacker. I do think if you're looking at a guy like Arnold Ebiketie, if we're talking about a shocker, Arnold Ebiketie could be a guy that goes here. I just would be stunned, floored, dismayed if it was Desmond Ridder or any of the quarterbacks. Just doesn't make any just doesn't make any sense. It's not a Pete Carroll thing. He doesn't overvalue the quarterback position. It's just not something that I would ever sense happening when there are so many other needs. But Roger Goodell's up.
All right.
So Roger Goodell's up. This could be okay.
Take.
We've got our guy. Are you ready? Are you ready to hear this, or you already saw it?
Let's make the announcement. The 9th pick of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Seattle
Seahawks select left tackle Charles Cross out of Mississippi State.
That is the surprise to me. And it's not that they took a left tackle, it's the fact that they took a pass-blocking dominant left tackle.
Yeah. They took a pass-blocking left tackle. Obviously, for Pete Carroll, he's looking at his offense. He's seeing no left tackle. Dwayne Brown, 37 years old. That's what we talked about on Tuesday. The odds of him coming back. And there are teams that were talking about it prior to the draft, like Charles Cross being worked out at right tackle and stuff like that. I would think that the plan most makes sense to have Charles Cross playing left tackle and to make that push to re-sign Brandon Shell. They may already have, something worked out. But you also, it's not necessarily the ideal plan to go with two rookies, but you can also double down at this position, especially because it is something that the Seahawks, they don't have any real starters. They've got Stone Forsythe, they've got Jake Curhan, they've got Greg Island. None of those guys are going to start. So we've got some, we've got one grade so far. Oh, man, that is the worst. Stephen Patel, I did write almost immediately on seasidejoe.com or seasidejoe.substack.com. I wrote, Charles Cross will not be the pick. But that was early on in the process. Obviously, Charles Cross is the pick. And, Mookie, given the board that we had here, no other offensive tackle prospect, unless you feel a certain type of way about Trevor Penny or Bernard Raymond, like no other tackle prospect come close to this. So with everybody else that was on the board, just how does this feel?
It feels like the right move to go offensive line first. Shout out to Sam Gold, our film guru, because I believe he's the only one on the entire staff who actually mocked Cross to the Seahawks. And the fact that they took a left tackle from an air raid offense, from a pass-heavy system, is encouraging in itself. Will he be a good offensive lineman? I don't know. At the NFL level, of course, I don't know. Nobody really knows anything because we know that there are a history. You could fill an encyclopedia's worth of freezing cold takes about our thoughts on the draft. But that excites me that much like they did in 2010, offensive line was a shambles. They didn't have a proper Walter Jones replacement. Dwayne Brown's not Walter Jones, but they need to address left tackle. And they did exactly that. If you gave me the choice between Cross and Penning, and of course I mocked Penning to Seattle, I would take Cross. So welcome to Seattle, Charles. And for once, they didn't take a 26-year-old guy as a rookie.
Yeah, we were talking that they could, Bernard Raymond. And this is like not a reach, I guess. A lot of people would say that they maybe had mocked Charles Cross as low as the 20s. But a lot of people had Charles Cross going in the top 5. I mean, as of this morning, the flurry of thousands of mock drafts going out this morning in the last day or so, saw Charles Cross going to the Giants, saw Charles Cross going to the Panthers. So Seahawks don't necessarily make a reach. A lot of people think Charles Cross is the best tackle in this draft, actually. I keep shouting out the Boomer Bust draft show on YouTube that I like, and one of those guys had Charles Cross as the number 1 player on his board, and that's at any position. Now that's just one person's opinion, but it is an opinion that you don't necessarily always hear with players drafted by the Seattle Seahawks. Ian Rappaport, the Seahawks make the pick rather than trade, selecting Charles Cross at number 9, the final of the elite OTs. Jeff Schwartz, Charles Cross is the smoothest pass protector in the draft. Check out his footwork, his hand placement, and his balance. When we watch film tomorrow for the Big Boys Club, which is his offensive tackle show, Jeff Schwartz there. So, you can get a better sense here of Charles Cross as a left tackle. Going through some tweets about Charles Cross, obviously. Joe Fan, Seahawks checking off a position of supreme value, and they need, rather than getting cute, come on down, Charles Cross. Great pick. How do you feel like, just in the terms of the conversation between need and BPA? You mentioned Devin Lloyd. Let's just say that like Charles Cross is a Garrett Bowles-esque, like fine left tackle who doesn't piss you off. Eric Fisher, let's say. It's like, oh, he's Eric Fisher. And then you've got Devin Lloyd, who you were super high on, and you feel like Devin Lloyd could be like an impact like star, but not at a position of need. How would you weigh those things, Mookie?
Yeah, well, I just think about the Aaron Curry pick. And Devin Lloyd, I don't think will be Aaron Curry, but he might have been considered BPA back in 2009. Seattle clearly had other needs, more important needs. Now, it's almost unfair to compare the two eras because, all the analytics and everything that we know about positional value, we're more informed now than we were 13 years ago. But still, they could have taken Michael Crabtree, for example. They could have taken Mark Sanchez, which would have been a bad pick, but they needed a successor to Matt Hasselbeck. They went at a position where they weren't in dire need. They already had Lofa Tatupu and Leroy Hill, and they went with the BPA. It didn't work. So the way I see with the Seahawks, they have so many needs that BPA is really kind of at the back of my mind. Charles Cross might not be the best tackle in this draft, but even if he's very good, if he is like Russell Okung, good, sometimes great, more often than not, just decent enough, that can greatly help the Seahawks offense. So I'm pleased with the pick. I don't even know what to do with myself because they actually did something normal for a change. I was expecting, all right, trade down. Are they going to actually pick somebody who was projected for the mid-second? No, they actually rolled back the years back to 2010 and went with a player in the top 10 who was projected to go in the top 10. So well done to them.
We've got more Charles Cross stats here. John Sokolov breaking, whatever. Charles Cross allowed 2 sacks and 919 snaps last year and 6 pressures and 683 pass blocking snaps. I don't know why you would differentiate pass blocking snaps for the pressures but not the sacks, but that's neither here nor there. He's the 5th highest drafted Mississippi State player of all time. And then, you've got the 2 sacks last. We know like an air raid offense, allowing sacks in an air raid offense, not necessarily what's going to happen. These throws are not like drop back, sit there, survey the field, wait, see what's happening, run around. Russell Wilson doesn't play in anything close to an air raid offense. So it's not going to look anything like a Russell Wilson thing, which also could signify, as you were saying, Mookie, that the Seahawks are not going to be playing a Russell Wilson style of football anymore, which makes sense. They don't have Russell Wilson. They've got Drew Lock. They've got Geno Smith. Maybe Drew Lock could be the favorite there. And I still think, obviously, they'll bring in a third guy of note, not just a guy, but probably a third guy of note. And I want to talk before you have to go about the idea of that still happening today. But, allowing 2 sacks and 919 snaps or 6 pressures and 683 pass blocking snaps, just like we have to talk about so many things that go into these stats where it's like, what's the actual, how many times was he beat by the guy? How many times did he only have, because these guys are getting the ball, they throw it. This air raid asks you to throw that ball to your running back maybe 500 times. So it's like, it's such a different style of offense. But PFF, again, who, at this point, it's hack to talk about how PFF is hack, but they're still, hack. So 87.2 run blocking grade. Mississippi State, the fewest amount of rushing attempts in college football, which is not a 32-team league. It's 120 or so teams, and they didn't run the ball at all. So this run blocking grade, I think it's good. I think it's good that he's, I think it's good. You don't want to be bad. And it's just reps. And so the Seahawks are going to give him a lot of reps, and he should be Mookie. I mean, I guess we could also just say, like, we don't know what's going to happen. How does this impact Dwayne Brown and Brandon Shell in the offensive tackle situation? How does this impact Seattle moving forward and shoring up the rest of their holes in free agency?
Well, I don't see Brown coming back. I think that's very clear, because if they do bring him back, they're not going to bring him back to be a bench player. You can say, oh, maybe he can help mentor Charles Cross. Well, if he wants to do that, he can be an assistant coach. Because otherwise, I don't want to use a top 10 pick on an offensive lineman who's not ready to start day one. Yeah. So Charles Cross should be able to be plug and play right away at left tackle. I hope that they don't switch him to right tackle. If he plays left tackle, just keep him there. Left tackle is far more valuable than right tackle. The salaries for a top left tackle compared to a top right tackle make it that abundantly clear. Brandon Shell, I don't expect to be back. I mean, Seattle's not even hinted at wanting to bring him back. I believe that Jake Curran, that's his job to lose for the moment. The fact that they were comfortable using him the last couple of games of the season. I know Shell was hurt, but it's like they could have just kept Cedric Ogbuehi the whole time and just had him be the backup. But instead, they jettisoned him. They started Curran. He looked all right, small sample size. Still bringing competition. I think that they would consider taking another lineman in the 2nd round or the 3rd round. But for what they have right now in terms of the offensive line, just to have talent, high-end talent, is a big deal to me. And what I mean by high-end talent is not necessarily late any first-round pick, because Jermaine Ifedi is a late first-round pick. James Carpenter was a late first-round pick. Charles Cross was supposed to be one of the top offensive linemen in the country. And look, they can help teach run blocking. I expect that he's going to be raw there, but the pass protection has just been such an issue for the Seahawks for such a long time that they've been no better than like okay for like 15, 16 years since Walter Jones and Steve Hutchinson were broken up. So looking at the film of Cross, I like his base. He seems like he's got good strength to him. His hand position is all right. And if he can move in the open field, I see that play. The screen didn't work, so he's perfect for the Seahawks already. But he just depleted that dude. So it looks like a really cool highlight for the future failed screen passes of the Seattle Seahawks. What's good trolling is that Russell Wilson leaves, and the Seahawks use their highest draft capital on offensive linemen in 12 years. That's perfect.
There you go. Yeah, Benjamin Solak, Charles Cross, Russ is shaking. And, I mean, you know, the Seahawks. Okay, here's Tyler Lockett. Yes, sir. Congrats, Charles Cross. Welcome to Seahawks Nation. All the offensive players, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Drew Lock, Geno Smith, Rashad Penny, even, as you said, on the screen passes, maybe Chris Carson. Do you think Chris Carson is playing on the Seahawks this year?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it seems
I think
like
that neck injury is too serious.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and but we'll see what happens. But yeah, so running back, how big of that is a need, do you think, on day two?
Will they go running back on day two, you're saying?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Third or fourth round, they might. But they are very willing to go running back pretty much every year, it seems. Like they took DJ Dallas in 2020. They took Travis Homer in 2019. And that was with Penny taken in the first round in 2018. And Alex Collins in 2016. I know post Marshawn Lynch, but Thomas Rawls had broken out as an undrafted free agent and was the projected starter before his ankle went, and they kept Kristen Michael briefly. So that's a position they always invest in. Rashad Penny and Kristen Michael were kind of like the exceptions to the rule as far as drafting early, but late, I'm fine with that. You can get a running back in any round. Chris Snape saying they must think Cross will become a good run blocker. Yeah, they can work on that. Certainly, we see with the way that the Seahawks offense is right now, it's different with the coaching staff. I mean, they're not using Mike Solari anymore. They got Andy Dickerson. They're going to use a lot of the wide zone blocking schemes. So I think Cross seems like a good fit. He's been mocked very often to Seattle as a result of his schematic fit. So I'm pleased with this, and I'm intrigued to see what else they do. I see Roseanne Johnson saying, wasn't Cross your prediction for the 9th pick? Wasn't mine. Was not mine. It was Kendall Gold. I can't take credit for that. But certainly somebody on the field goal staff actually predicted it. And none of the main writers did. I think the only offensive line picks were Ikem Ekwonu and I think Evan Neal.
Yeah, it was not my prediction. Early on, I said Charles Cross would not go to the Seahawks because of his failing to meet certain athletic thresholds that we had always seen from offensive tackles in the Pete Carroll regime, and because of his lack of run blocking reps. But Charles Cross is not a player that I'm mad about it whatsoever. It's actually quite the opposite. You know, I think I'm fine being wrong about this because the Seahawks see a guy who I would not have been surprised to see Charles Cross go to the Jaguars. In fact, I think that if the Jaguars did not need an edge rusher, they would have possibly picked Charles Cross over Evan Neal and Ike Ekwonu, because neither of those guys have what Charles Cross has, which is, like you said, a day one job at left tackle. And maybe they do. You know, I can't really speak for them or their futures or anything like that. But it just seems like all the evaluations have said that Charles Cross, that's his job, and he does it as better than anybody else in this draft. Matty F. Brown, another, does he still write at field goals sometimes?
No, he's over at Sports Illustrated, and he does great work, and I cite his work all the time, even though he's not with us.
Absolutely. Charles Cross, the best pure pass protector in the draft class. Crazy gifted, gliding mover, unbelievable weight distribution, body control, hand usage, reactive athleticism, way better movement than his testing. So there you go. The testing didn't really say for sure, really account, I guess, for, with the 10-yard split, the 20-yard shuttle, all those fun things. Chris Sims, who I just really enjoy Chris Sims's analysis. I don't know, I think it's different when he's doing his draft stuff as compared to when he's doing Pro Football Talk. But I think Seahawks were probably shocked that Cross was available at 9. Unbelievable potential, arguably the best athlete among the tackles, which I think, again, comes into play at maybe playing athleticism as opposed to the testing, which didn't go. He's not going to be that guy who's got a 10 out of 10 RAS, if you know what that is out there. And the Seahawks need offensive linemen. I mean, no doubt, right? I mean, tackle and outside linebacker, I think, in that edge rushing position, because I don't know how long Uchenna Nwosu or, I just think you could say that. But also, it's just a new era where you've got a new quarterback. You've got Shane Waldron going into year 2. Obviously, Shane Waldron coming from the Sean McVay system. If they're trying to build something similar to that, if they're trying to put together, say, like a house like the Rams built, when in 2017 when they hired Sean McVay, they also signed Andrew Whitworth to play left tackle that year. They also signed Robert Woods in free agency. They also traded for Sammy Watkins, and then a year later traded for Brandon Cooks. They also signed John Sullivan, a center who played there for the next 2 seasons. They went out and they made a lot of changes. They drafted Tyler Higbee in 2017 in the 16 in the 4th round, and then they drafted Gerald Everett in the 4th round in 2017. And they drafted Cooper Kupp in the 3rd round in 2017. So the Seahawks, if they were trying to build a house similar to that, where the Rams had Jared Goff for a few years, and that wasn't really going to go anywhere. But then they had everything set up for Matthew Stafford last year, and it worked out pretty well. So with Charles Cross, you're saying, that you're building that house. You're putting the pieces together. And if the Seahawks extend DK Metcalf after this weekend, which I think they will, or sometime after this weekend, then you've got another piece of that foundation. You've got Metcalf. Lockett can be around for another couple of years, hopefully longer. I'm just saying that things happen when you turn 30. But the pieces of the bricks are seemingly coming together. Lobster Special says, can't say I'm thrilled with the Cross pick, but maybe it's a sign that they're looking to do something different. Exactly, Lobster Special. That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. I think they got to look at a new type of offense, a new era that will involve maybe more quick passing, more passing in general. Mookie, when's the last time you ate lobster?
I've never eaten lobster, but there's a new lobster and crab place. It's a food cart. Because, of course, in the Portland area, there are a lot of food carts, not like, the way New York City does it, but in the Portland area, there are so many food carts, and one just opened up not too far from where I live. And I would absolutely love to try it because I eat quite a bit of seafood, but never lobster. But in a pinch, I would definitely love to eat some lobster, if you get my drift. So I just happened to notice, while we've been talking about the Seahawks, there's been a run on wide receivers like nobody's business. Garrett Wilson went to the Jets. Chris Olave went to the Saints, who traded up with Washington. And the Detroit Lions traded up from 32 all the way to 12 to take Jameson Williams. And that really surprised me. I would not trade 20 spots up to get him. But especially coming off a serious injury like he just had. But, yeah, the run on receivers is going. And I can't imagine these next 3 picks, Texans, Ravens, Eagles, are we going to see a quarterback taken over these next few slots? I doubt it.
Yeah. I missed all that stuff too with the trade ups, but I definitely a lot of people were predicting Garrett Wilson to the Jets, so that made sense. The Saints, obviously, they have so many question marks with Michael Thomas and all that kind of stuff, and Chris Olave going that high is totally sensible. I agree. That's such a big jump, 32 to 12. I don't know what they gave up. Do you know?
Yeah, let's see. The Lions sent picks 32, 34, and 66 to the Vikings for number 12 and number 46. So they sent a first and 2 seconds. Well, 66 is early 3rd round, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be. But still, that's quite a bit of capital given up. Well, the Eagles just traded up. They're now at number 13. So now it went quiet for a bit. We went there's no trading going on whatsoever. Now we're just getting trade after trade after trade, and the Seahawks are not part of it. So I'm not
Stay out of it. I mean, again, if they're not, if they're trading up for, if they're trading up for Jordan Davis, I'll take it because it makes me look good, and nothing's better than that. But if they're trading up for a quarterback, it makes me look terrible. Nothing's worse than that. I will say, like, for me, the Lions making a big move for Jameson Williams, I love Jameson Williams. I mean, when I watched Jameson Williams in that SEC championship game, and it was just, and that's the same thing that you would see. If he was there, it's there, and it's in his body. He can do it. So it's like for him to be there, so dominant, so much faster than the Georgia defense, which is the Georgia defense. And he's so much quicker. He's so much quicker. He looks different out there. That's why I like Jordan Davis. You know, they look different. They're different looking guys on a field that is full of talent in this draft and the next year's draft, you know. And Jameson Williams has got incredible acceleration, and just like with a guy like Jared Goff, who's not going to throw the ball downfield very well, who's not going to be able to make those big time throws like a Russell Wilson would or a Matthew Stafford would. He's not going to be that guy. That if you can get the ball to, you know, Jameson Williams in that 10 to 15 yard range, he may take off with it and do it all on his own, which is what Jared Goff needs, just like he got that out of Robert Woods. And he's definitely going to need that type of player on the offense. And I think the Lions are a borderline playoff team next year, having come away in this draft with Aiden Hutchinson, who, you know, was probably number one on their board, I would imagine, to come away with Aiden Hutchinson and then to come away with Jameson Williams. Because you say that the draft, it doesn't sound like the trade was all that bad. It just sounds like they did have to give up one, basically a fringe first-round pick maybe, with that pick 34. So good deal for the team that's trading down, though. That's, you know, I think that in this particular class, who was that traded down? With the Vikings?
Yeah, the Vikings. And the Vikings, new GM, same deal. They love to trade down just as much as Seattle does. But now we're in a spot where Seattle has not traded down for 4 years. This is the fourth year in a row they've not traded their first pick down in the draft order. So maybe that's the new change here.
Yeah, Vikings give up 12 and 46 for 32, 34, and 66. It's also just like, yeah, I think it's a bad class. I think this is another sign that it's a class that at least, like, here's what I'll say, because people take they don't like hearing things like it's a bad class sometimes. But here's my explanation. If you have 10 classes, you have 10 draft classes, one of them has to be 10th. And one of them has to be first. One of them has to be like 2011, where you had Alvin Smith and J.J. Watt and Von Miller and just stacked after stacked after stacked. 2014 with Aaron Donald and OBJ not even going in the top 10, and Mike Evans in the top. He was in the top 10. It's just like, okay, God, these guys are stacked. And then 2013, just terrible. You wish you didn't have a first-round pick that year, you know. And this year, it may not be the worst class out of 10, but perception-wise, I think the NFL is treating it like that. And because the NFL is treating it like that, you might as well call it that. It's what the NFL values this at. So for the Vikings GM, he goes down from 12 to 32. That used to be worth more than what he got back for it. And at the end of the day, though, I think that it just matters to him that he has two draft picks in that sweet spot, 32 and 34. And then he'll also have a pick at 66. But I think that really sucks for him is giving up 46, obviously. That kind of like taints it a opposed to, say, giving up a fifth-round pick. But he didn't love anyone on the board, which I think says a lot. He didn't really love anyone on the board. Okay, well, the Eagles selected Jordan Davis, so there goes that.
Oh, well, that's a perfect Fletcher Cox replacement because he's up there in age. Well, he's not ancient. I mean, he got drafted in 2011, but he's certainly not as effective as he used to be. And if Jordan Davis had gone to Seattle, I'd have been fine with that without being over the moon because he's an athletic freak. Seattle loves them some athletic freaks. And in a 3-4 defense, I think he would thrive, especially if he can move Poona Ford out to end on occasions. I mean, just his raw power, the way he's bullying Alabama's offensive line, that gives away just how dominant he is. And I can see him having a bright future in this league. What's interesting is this run on receivers. I'm wondering if the Eagles are going, man, we could have gotten one too, because they haven't had the best of luck drafting a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
The Chargers certainly would have loved to get a receiver, but now those three guys are off the table. But Treylon Burks is available. Maybe they trade down and go for Sky Moore or Christian Watson. Lots of options on the table for them, because I know they re-signed Mike Williams for $20 million a year, but they need speed. They really need speed on the at the wide receiver position, because Keenan Allen doesn't provide that.
Yeah, it's been a lot of talk about the Chargers maybe being wide receiver interested in this draft. Obviously throughout the whole process, always talking about a wide receiver, but then as we got very close to the draft today, I think more talk about that. And I just think, I've always been surprised just with how people. I mean, isn't Mike Williams kind of not bad, but like he's not moving the needle for me a ton. But maybe I'm just missing it. I think when you have a guy like Justin Herbert, maybe it makes your job easier. But Charles Cross, not going to go to the Chargers. Derek Stingley, not going to go. Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, and Jordan Davis. I like that this Chargers meme guy. None of those players are going to the Chargers. And I think that the Eagles had to trade over the Ravens, obviously, to get Jordan Davis, because all the talk was that the Ravens were the lowest spot, were the floor for Jordan Davis to go. So once the Seahawks, made their Charles Cross pick. And I think the Seahawks, like it was saying earlier, if they didn't expect Charles Cross, who was probably the number one ranked left tackle in this class, to be there at number 9, they didn't have to trade up to get him. It actually kind of compares to the Lions last year with Penei Sewell. I think Penei Sewell was their top-ranked tackle, obviously. And even though Rashawn Slater may have had a better rookie season, they both looked fantastic. And the Lions weren't looking for a left tackle because they have Taylor Decker. But it looks like the Lions were able to get, Penei Sewell. There was all that jumping up and down excitement for picking Penei Sewell. And the Seahawks may have felt that exact same way about Charles Cross. It's just that because I think there hasn't been as much hype this year about any of the picks, really. Any of the prospects, I think the hype has been for guys who weren't at a position of great value, relatively speaking, like a Tyler Linderbaum or like a Jordan Davis. Or you'd have guys that had something working against them, like Derek Stingley's foot, or, Kayvon Thibodeau with the noise about his character, off-field attitude or something like that. None of the stuff that I really bought into. Or Charles Cross with the run thing, and that he didn't test phenomenally. But he is on the Seahawks, and the Seahawks, as we're talking about the history of Seahawks offensive line picks. Russell Okung, just under Pete Carroll, Russell Okung, James Carpenter, Jermaine Afidi, Charles Cross. This is the Seahawks' best opportunity to draft a premium left tackle since Russell Okung, because those other guys obviously were late first-round picks. It's just a different beast. You're not going to get a Charles Cross in the 20s. Derek Stevens, I recognize that guy. I haven't seen his face in a long time. A lot of people overthinking this Charles Cross pick. There's no mystery. He took over 1,200 pass pro reps. It's on tape. He slides, punches, mirrors, bends, controls the edge. This isn't developmental. Yeah, I don't think anyone thought that. Maybe they did. I'm not reading what everyone's writing. But, yeah, he's a plug and play. The development is just run blocking, and maybe this is a sign. I mean, do you change your expectations for how many times the Seahawks are going to run next year?
Just a tad. Maybe the way to get his run blocking reps up is to run the ball heavily next season anyway. Like you best learn by actually practicing it. So I still think they'll be run heavy, but not like 2018 levels of run heavy. So one thing with Cross is, unlike previous Seahawks picks where everybody's just scratching their head like, okay, they took LJ Collier, they took Jordan Brooks, they went with Rashad Penny over Nick Chubb, or this has been widely praised. And I can't recall the last time that's happened for a Seahawks first pick. It probably would be Russell Okung when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And Okung, I thought, worked out reasonably well. And then, yeah, Earl Thomas as well. And those filled obvious needs. So, yeah, we're halfway through the draft. This draft has taken, what, an hour and 40 to get through 14 picks.
Yeah.
But, yeah, now anybody freaking out over Trevor Penny going to Seattle because of the run blocking, such as me, that's not happening. Jermaine Johnson obviously falling down the board. I'm trying to think of who else. Quarterbacks are probably not going to be taken in the top 20. Maybe a non-zero chance if the Steelers don't take Kenny Pickett. There might not be a quarterback going in the first round in this draft.
My final feeling, was that, yeah, like my final feeling was I don't think a quarterback's going before 20. And I said, maybe a quarterback doesn't go in the first round at all. I think, once you get when you get to the Steelers at 20, they've got to take it into account. That just it's that a lot of talk about how it's the Kevin Colbert's last draft and he's retiring after this and leaving Mike Tomlin with a potential franchise quarterback taking a shot there. I would also say though that the Steelers, they're right there. They were just in the playoffs and they did it with Ben Roethlisberger, who had no value, less than no value, negative value last year. So Mitchell Trubisky is not a downgrade from the Ben Roethlisberger that we just saw. He might turn out to be an upgrade. And you want to be able to say, if you're the Steelers, who have plenty of needs in terms of at least improving themselves, and they're in this AFC North with the Browns and the Bengals and Steelers, Browns, Bengals, Ravens. They're definitely number 4 in there, depending on how long Deshaun Watson could be suspended and how that all works. We never want to give the Browns any credit. We just don't expect them to do anything good. But when you look at that situation, the Steelers, would they really even want to take a quarterback right now? Do the Saints really want to take a quarterback right now? I just don't know where this ends, because after the Steelers, you got the Patriots. Here, let me actually pull it up on a better place. After the Steelers, I just don't know where else a quarterback's going to go, which is why you do get these trade scenarios where teams are like, or where people making mock drafts are like, oh, this is where I want to mock the Seahawks trading up for a quarterback or another team. Obviously now it won't be the Lions. Lions aren't trading up from 34 because they just traded that pick. So it's not going to be the Lions trading up for a quarterback. So after the Steelers, you've got the Patriots, not them. The Packers, not them. The Cardinals, not them. The Cowboys, no. The Bills, no. The Titans, maybe. The Bucks, maybe. The Packers, no. The Chiefs, no. The Chiefs, no. The Bengals, no. The Vikings, no, probably not. So then you start getting into the second round and the potential trade up. And it's like, well, what's the threat? Why are you trading up? What are you so worried about? I don't even think that the 5th-year option is any valuable anymore, because we've seen that when you get to year 3 or year 4, you want to get paid if you're a hit.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not a hit, then you don't get the 5th-year option like Daniel Jones. So what's the point? So I just don't know what a team is giving up value for to get a quarterback out of a weak quarterback class. For those of you watching, throw in your thoughts on the quarterbacks. Tell me your predictions where the first quarterback is going to get selected. Let's see if anybody can correctly guess who the first quarterback will be, where they will be picked. Mookie, maybe we can make a prediction.
Okay, so that would be Willis, Corral, Pickett, Ritter. I think Desmond Ritter is going to go first, which means that he won't go to Seattle.
Yeah. I could see that it could go any route at this point between Ritter, Willis, Pickett, or even Corral. Corral's at the draft. I saw before the draft started, Corral was like, well, I've heard enough stuff from agents and teams and stuff like that to make me think that I should be here. So he's there. I think that, the Texans on the clock right now. I don't expect the Texans to draft a quarterback right now, but they could be the first team to take a quarterback. I think that makes a lot of sense to me if it is the first team to take a quarterback. When you get into the second round at the top, you've got the Jaguars at 33. You've got the Vikings at 34 now. You've got the Jets at 35. You've got the Giants at 36 and the Texans at 37. And then you've got the Jets again, the Bears, and then the Seahawks at 40 and 41. Then you've got the Falcons at 43. So when you're looking at the second round, teams that could be looking for a quarterback in the early part of the second round would be the Giants at 36, the Texans at 37, the Seahawks at 40 and 41, the Colts at 42, maybe, and the Falcons at 43. It's just none of them, those seem desperate to me, except, and really, at all. And this class, it's, I don't know. What are the odds that no quarterback is drafted today?
Non-zero. What are the odds? I think they're not too far off. It's not a long shot, I would say, which I don't think has happened in the modern era where no quarterbacks be taken in the first round. But yeah, all the movements, teams that were probably looking at taking a quarterback in round one already made their trade.
Yeah.
So that knocks several teams out. They gave up their first round pick in the process. So that hurts the quarterback class. So we're at pick 15, Houston. The fact that Davis Mills ended up playing the way he did late in the season probably means that he's going to stay as the starting quarterback, but who knows? Kyle Hamilton just went to Baltimore, so he was falling a bit. Kenyon Green. So the Texans are going to take a guard. So that's the first guard, I think, off the board. So they go offensive line.
I like Kyle Hamilton to the Ravens. Who doesn't? The trade. The Ravens have traded Hollywood Brown to the Cardinals. So Hollywood Brown has joined the NFC West, replacing Christian Kirk.
Is that a real account? Really? Is that a thing they're doing? Oh, wow. They're actually trading. Man, I'm really surprised they would do that. And I'm not high on Hollywood Brown or anything, but Baltimore, for as much as they get lauded year after year, how bad are they at evaluating wide receiver talent?
Yeah. Because
they've drafted a ton of them over the last few years, and like Devin Duvernay is their second best one, maybe.
I'm a huge fan of Rashad Bateman, but he hasn't played much in the NFL, and he might be a terrible pick. So you're right; they've not done a good job. Just like the Jets haven't done a good job, and even then, I'm a fan of Elijah Mitchell? No, not Elijah Mitchell.
Well, I mean, he's a good running back, but I think you mean Elijah
Moore.
Elijah Moore, yeah.
Hollywood Brown, he says thank God. So he's not mad about this.
That is interesting. Hey, Kenneth, I'm obviously going to handle the rest of the field goals.
Yeah,
coverage,
for
but
sure.
If the Seahawks trade back in, I will be hopping back into this live stream.
There you go. Everybody out there, go follow Field Goals on Twitter at Field Goals. Follow Mookie at Mookie Alexander. Get all the Charles Cross information there from Field Goals for sure. Thank you, Mookie, for joining us, and all the Field Goals people who came over to check in. Check out seasidejoe.substack.com. I'll stick around. Thanks again, Mookie.
All right. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. That's me, Kenneth Arthur, sticking with you through the rest of the first round. And as Mookie said, it is speeding along rapid fire pace. So that is pretty exciting. I would actually be open to taking any Seahawks fans, taking a call and adding you to the stream here if you want to talk about Charles Cross and the Seahawks pick. But you'll have to let me know in the comments there and figure out how to add somebody. But yeah, if you want to join me on the stream here, you better be wearing clothes, or just don't turn your camera on. But the Seahawks adding Charles Cross, and the moves are happening so fast. The Texans at 15, their pick is in. Looking at the board, there's a very good amount of players still available, and the Seahawks I'm not expecting them to make any more picks today. If they do, that'll be quite the news story. But do I feel any personal pain given that I said Charles Cross wouldn't be the pick? No, I don't feel bad about that. Charles Cross, anybody that can come in and play left tackle, that's what I said. I mean, it's what I said from the very beginning. If you're going to pick a tackle, it better damn sure be it's a left tackle. If you're going to pick a defensive lineman, he better damn sure rush the passer, and disrupt the pass. The Seahawks had two major needs: offensive tackle, edge rusher, and that's what they addressed: a left tackle. So I'm not at all mad about the pick. I'm very happy about the pick. It's just not what I expected. It's just like when I'm looking at whatever evidence that we have out there. I was happy with the fact I was expecting that Charles Cross wouldn't be the pick, and he was. So good. You know, I'm very happy that the Seahawks have selected a left tackle. That's what they should have done. So on that stream, you know, in that sense, it's been a very good thing to see the Seahawks pick Charles Cross, a guy who I wasn't sure was going to be available. And now Kyle Hamilton being selected by the Ravens. I mean, he's going to come in there and I think just be dominant. And playing in Baltimore is such a perfect situation for Kyle Hamilton. So looking at the entire board here, consensus big board at NFL mock draft database.com, Aiden Hutchinson going to the Detroit Lions. Seems to be a really good fit for him and a really good fit for the Lions, just to get they got Penny Sewell last year. They've got Aiden Hutchinson this year. They're getting premium prospects. It's not the type that you feel bad about like previous Lions first round picks. These are the types of picks that I think people should feel good about. Kayvon Thibodeau going to the Giants at 5. That's such a great value for the Giants. I think Kayvon Thibodeau has potentially the most potential in this draft to be the best player. And getting him at 5, if you're the Giants GM, I don't know why. If I just should go with Joe Schoen, I should just go with that and stick with it. But Joe Schoen going Kayvon Thibodeau, great pick for the Giants. Ike Ekwonu, his pick to the Panthers. I think that's again, my Panthers friend out there, Andrew, I think you got to be over the moon. If I'll check my phone here after the stream and figure out just how happy he is with Ike Ekwonu, I would think pretty happy. But my fear with Ike Ekwonu, not as a fear, is that he was going to be a great guard and not a great tackle. And in Carolina, he's going to get that opportunity right away to be a tackle. So that's a good thing for Ike Ekwonu and for the Panthers. Number 4, Trayvon Walker. He goes number 1 to the Jaguars. Totally unknown to see how that works out. I'm not sure that I have any real expectations for him this year. The Jaguars, are they going to be good? Probably not. You know, the AFC is so stacked. Even as a last place schedule, I can't imagine the Jaguars have a ton of favorable matchups. But I am a fan of Trevor Lawrence. I am a fan of I do think that Doug Peterson was a good hire for that team. And I am rooting for the Jaguars to finally do something good. So we'll see what happens with Jacksonville. I would like to see them get more and better wide receivers for Trevor Lawrence. Number 5, Neal. He goes to the Giants as well at pick number 7. I said the Giants would have to probably trade down with one of those picks, and it never happened. Maybe that was just their effort to get the best possible trade offers. And as we saw, no trades in the top 9, top 10. There were no trades in the top 10 after today's festivities had started. So I just imagine there was no real value there for the trade down. And now the Giants will have this decision to make with James Bradbury, the cornerback. And is that a player that the Seahawks could have connections with if the Giants have to cut him or put him on the trade market for a very low cost? Seattle has cap space in theory, and they have a ton of cap space in future years. But James Bradbury adding a probably 29 or 30-year-old cornerback, I don't know why, especially because I just don't think the Seahawks have any panic or desperation at the cornerback position. And I just think we're getting to the point now where it's a little overvalued. Sauce Gardner. Oh, shit. I'm talking about the cornerbacks now. Oops. Sauce Gardner didn't turn out to be the number one cornerback in this class, but it was pretty much the case anyway, and close. Very few cornerbacks in history have gone in the top 4, and Sauce Gardner goes to the Jets, where he will join another player I'll talk about here shortly. But I love him. Love the cornerback. I think he's a great player, person, prospect, and the best Jets cornerback prospect since that other guy. So there goes Sauce Gardner to the Jets. Derek Stingley, number 3. Kind of surprised that he went as high as he did, but good for him. We'll see what happens with Derek Stingley. If he's healthy, then you would think the Texans just got a great player, and they don't have very many great players. So again, Texans in a situation like the Seahawks where they just needed to start adding great players that would make you want to tune in on Sundays, players that will get you excited about watching the team, even if the team doesn't win a ton of games. So Derek Stingley going to the Texans, and the Texans just needing to sort of like rebuild their reputation and their watchability and rootability. And so they try to do that today by taking Derek Stingley, number 3, and then again adding another player at number 15 who we haven't announced yet here on the stream. Kyle Hamilton, just talked about him going to the Ravens. Charles Cross, not sure what his status is or what team he went to. Garrett Wilson going to the Jets, where he'll join Sauce Gardner. Some people saying that Garrett Wilson was the best receiver in the class, but he didn't end up going as the top receiver in the class. But he might as well have. It's very close. Garrett Wilson. I love Zach Wilson. Wanted to see Zach Wilson get help in this draft. Wanted to see him get help early in the top 10 in this draft. Wanted it to be someone exciting. And Garrett Wilson pairing up with Elijah Moore, who was perhaps the most touted wide receiver in the training camp in summer all last year of the rookies. Elijah Moore, he was really good at the end of the last season. Zach Wilson was getting better at the end of the last season. Now they add Garrett Wilson to Zach Wilson to Elijah Moore to Corey Davis. I'm very stoked. The Jets are like 9,000 to 1 to make the playoffs. I think they're going to do it. I think the Jets are the second best team in the AFC East. And I think that that's all because of Zach Wilson and Robert Saleh and getting better on defense, which they obviously hope to do now with Sauce Gardner and some of the other changes that they've made. So that's my evaluation of the Jets, who picked Garrett Wilson. Jermaine Johnson on the board, highest rated player on the board. We do have a surprise here at wide receiver in the first round in the Washington Commanders. But let's keep talking here. Jameson Williams, Drake London going to the Falcons at 8, first receiver off the board. Had that injury last year, but prior to that was the most dominant receiver in college football. Just with Keaton Slovis, a quarterback. Still then, just like every week, it was like you could not defend him. You could put a guy on him. That guy could be draped all over Drake, and it just didn't matter. Jameson Williams, like I said, just the most dominant, interesting, exciting, fascinating receiver prospect, if not all-around prospect in this draft for me. And for him to go to the Lions, I just think I'm completely jealous of what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are building in Detroit. Not to take anything away from the Seahawks and what they're building, but, I mean, their picks are just exactly what I think you would want to do and what I would do. And I would trade up for Jameson Williams, and what they gave up for Jameson Williams, I would have given that up in a heartbeat if I was the Lions and maybe if I was the Seahawks. But they go up there and they get Jameson Williams. Just very excited to see him in the NFL. Jordan Davis, I did all that prep on him today. Wrote an article just saying, getting prepared for the Seahawks to draft Jordan Davis. And didn't. Sometimes you write articles that you delete. So that's what I'll do. Malik Willis on the board. Chris Olave has been drafted. Chris Olave has obviously been drafted. He's going to the Saints, pairing up with Michael Thomas and James Winston and Alvin Kamara. And it's just going to be interesting to see that team next year, because I think the Saints are also a playoff team. Even though they're not like a good team, you're not like an excited team, you're not really excited to watch. I don't think I'm really excited to watch any Jameis Winston offenses, but you add Chris Olave, and if Michael Thomas comes back, and if Alvin Kamara is there, and if they have the offensive line that they want to have, then it's not that bad of a team. How valuable was Sean Payton? Is a question that you got to ask yourself. Then going down the board here, none of these guys have been picked yet that you're looking at on the screen. So we have to get down here. Zion Johnson, 23rd overall consensus big board. He goes 17th overall to the LA Chargers. Chargers building up that offensive line for Justin Herbert, picking Rashawn Slater last year, and then adding Zion Johnson this year, 6'3", 312 out of Boston College. I think Zion Johnson, he's a guy that Rob Staten had hyped up for quite a bit and was excited about Zion Johnson. So he's going to a Chargers team that should compete for the Super Bowl. When the Chargers drafted Justin Herbert, and I took a longer look at him that summer, I felt this guy's going to be an MVP and a Super Bowl winner and do it within his first 5 years. And that could be next season. So Zion Johnson is a immediate week 1 starter at guard and helps improve that offensive line, gives more protection for Herbert, but also for Brandon Staley's designs, has a better run game. And Brandon Staley's not designing the offense, obviously. Kenyon Green, the number 27 prospect. There's been a bit of a guard run here. The Texans picked Kenyon Green 15th overall. And again, just another guard. But they also think he could play right tackle. So again, the Texans are just a bad team that needs good players. And they add Derek Stingley and Kenyon Green. And I don't know what the grade is for that, but we'll find out in the course of, I'd say, 4 to 15 years. I'll give you a grade somewhere in between there. But Kenyon Green is going to be a better player than most of the players on the Texans, just by way of talent and stuff like that. And so Titus Howard, their first-round pick. I can't believe, sometimes you forget guys were first-round picks, and that's going to be the case, I think, with a lot of these names. But Titus Howard was a first-round pick, if you can believe that, and he was the right tackle. And they have Laramie Tunsil on the left tackle side, but then they picked Kenyon Green here as a guy who could potentially start right away. And then Jahan Dotson, 31st on the consensus big board, but his peak was 16. Well, guess what? He goes 16th overall to the Washington Commanders. You're looking at the NFL mock draft database, and where he's been projected this whole time is in the basically late first, early second round. But he's a guy who compares very favorably to Tyler Lockett. And as you can see in the last couple of years, has been super productive at Penn State, despite playing with Sean Clifford as his quarterback. 12 touchdowns last year, 91 catches, 1,182 yards. Sporting News, Jacob Kamenker had him going as early as 19 to the Saints, so he was high on Jahan Dotson. 22 to the Packers, Saints. 17, the Draft Network's Keith Sanchez had him going 17. I'm just curious who had him going 16th, if I can even find it. But Jahan Dotson, that's how good the wide receiver class is, because we're getting a nice run here. 15. Rob Juden of the Draft Network decided to go as high as 15 on Jahan Dotson. But he goes to Washington, and he should immediately be an interesting player there to watch with Terry McLaurin, assuming that Terry McLaurin isn't traded and is, in fact, extended. And then the Titans have traded up, and they're at number pick 18. The pick is in, but I don't know what it is yet. But we've had the first 17 picks in, and now we're getting into like nobody predicted any of this, including all of the trades going wrong. Really interested to see here. Oh, shit. Eagles traded for A.J. Brown? See, I'm missing stuff as I go over this. Titans have selected Traylon Burks with the number 18 pick. I love Treylon Burks. Very exciting player out of Arkansas. He goes to the Titans, and they're not going to have A.J. Green. That's crazy. What happened? The Eagles have traded pick 18 and 101 to the Titans for A.J. Brown. So the Titans didn't even move up? Wow. A.J. Brown traded to the Eagles for picks 18 and 101. You guys already knew this, I'm sure, but I haven't had any comments here in a minute, and that's okay. That's fine. But Treylon Burks and A.J. Brown. It makes sense for the Titans to be like, well, we can immediately swap out A.J. Brown for Treylon Burks, let the contract play out in Philadelphia as they wanted to, and then bring in Treylon Burks. Love Treylon Burks. Really do. But A.J. Brown to the Eagles, what does that make you think of the Eagles? I think Jalen Hurts is not the answer, but you add A.J. Brown. They're trying to go for the playoffs right now when you do something like that. And then the Titans, when you look at theirs, let's pull up the Titans roster and all that. Very exciting draft. The Saints are on the clock. Very exciting. What do the Titans do with their other first-round pick? I'm very excited to see all these things playing out, and cannot rule out the Seahawks getting involved again. But I just don't really think the Seahawks are going to trade up. Now that now that A.J. Brown has been traded, it just makes me nervous for DK Metcalf. You look at the Titans roster right now. Where do you think the Titans fall in win-loss record? I'm looking at the offense. You got Taylor Lewan at left tackle. This is a solid pick there. Solid player at left tackle. Not really solid at quarterback, and you've added Robert Woods, but you've traded A.J. Brown. Robert Woods tore his ACL in the middle of last season. Des Fitzpatrick was a fourth-round pick last year. Grayson McMath was a sixth-round pick last year. Nick Westbrook-Akine was just a player. He's a player. He's out there. He's all right. But Treylon Burks added to that offense with Derrick Henry. It's clearly just a new. It's just they're not. Are they better? Are they better? I think they're just trying to save some money here, but nothing about the Titans is all that exciting. And then you look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's pull up the Philadelphia Eagles. Who would win in a game? You tell me. Who would win in a game between the Eagles and the Titans right now? Neutral field. The Eagles, who have Devontae Smith, picked him in the first round. Jalen Reagor picked him in the first round. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside picked him in the second round. Quez Watkins. And there was talk about picking a wide receiver in the first round this year, but instead they just used that first-round pick on A.J. Brown. Maybe that's the way to get around this idea that, are they going to be the Lions and pick a receiver 3 years in a row in the first round? Reagor, such a bad pick, went over Justin Jefferson. And then you've got Devontae Smith, a good pick, but you trade for A.J. Brown because you're looking for something more. You got Dallas Goedert as a tight end option. You got a pretty good, if not great, offensive line. Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Jason Kelsey, Isaac Malo, and Lane Johnson. Arguably the best offensive line in football with Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. And then I would say the number 3 receiver job probably comes down to Quez Watkins or Greg Ward, Dallas Goedert, Miles Sanders, Kenny Gainwell, and the Eagles can still make a pick here. But trading a first rounder for A.J. Brown, they're going for it. Is that a Super Bowl team? Is that a team that can compete for the Super Bowl out of the NFC? I would say in the NFC it is, right? Gosh, I just saw myself on the screen here with the TV behind me, and I saw a person's face. I thought I was going to get moited. I wish I didn't say it that way. I wish I had just said murdered. No QBs taken yet. But could see the Saints or Steelers taking one. I think if it's not the Steelers, then it's just not going to happen. Right? I think if it's not the Steelers, the Saints pick is in at 19. We've got 13 more picks to go. let's share this tab here from CBS Sports. Traylon Burks, they essentially exchanged a big physical receiver to replace A.J. Brown. Burks comes cheaper. I'm not sure he's A.J. Brown, but the philosophy makes sense. Get a cheaper player. Burks has to keep his weight down. Just an exciting player, a big player. Kind of reminded me of Rashad Bateman, who I said I was a big fan of. Went to the Ravens last year. But after, like I said, after the Saints and the Steelers, who's picking a quarterback? I don't think the Saints have any interest in picking a quarterback, but I've been wrong before. The Saints added Chris Olave. They've made a move for their offense. I think they want to get a right tackle. If there's one that they really like here, I haven't looked at my big board here in a minute. You talk about Trevor Penny. You talk about Bernard Raymond. You talk about the offensive lineman in that sort of category. But I don't know if you got any value here on the offensive tackles. Tyler Smith, I don't know if you really got any good value here. We're starting to get into that area of like, who are the fantastic players left on the board. Remember all that hype about, I'm telling you, Lobster, these were not the good quarterbacks. These were not the quarterbacks. This is not the class for it. Nobody wanted it. And I still think Sam Howell makes the most sense for the Seahawks. But look at it. Why not wait till the third round? Why not wait till the fourth round? You know, this really reminded me of Nick Foles as a third-round pick. Kirk Cousins is the fourth-round pick. You know, in 2012, when the Seahawks picked Russell Wilson, don't forget, you had Ryan Tannehill went 7th overall. It wasn't just Luck and Griffin, but you had Ryan Tannehill 7th. You had Brandon Weeden 22nd. And he had Brock Osweiler in the late second round, or mid to late second round. And then you had Russell Wilson, Nick Foles, and Kirk Cousins. And it's like, that's similar to what we were looking at right now, where you're looking at the first round and there's no Andrew Luck here. There's no RG3 here. So forget about that. You might say that there's a guy like a Ryan Tannehill, right? So you might say Ryan Tannehill, the more athletic Kenny Pickett. And do you really need to draft that guy in the first round? And then you look at the second round, and I don't get any excitement over any of the quarterbacks. And then you look ahead to next year, and you just think to yourself, why am I taking myself out of the running for potentially drafting a quarterback next year? I just could not wrap my brain around the idea that Malik Willis was a high draft pick, or that really any of these quarterbacks were first rounders. Desmond Ridder is a fourth round pick. I mean, the idea that Desmond Ridder would be a first round pick, he's got a fourth round value. He's got a fourth round valuation. What are you really looking for when you draft a guy in this range that we're currently in? I mean, what gets you so excited that you would really want to draft a quarterback here when the history of the NFL says you're not going to get a guy that's top 12, top 15 in the NFL at his position? And if you're not going to get a quarterback who's top 12 at his position, don't draft him in the first 2 rounds. You know, if you want that guy, I think you can get that guy in the 3rd or 4th round this year, who's going to be the 20th best quarterback. You know, there's not 32 quarterbacks that are starting. There's 20 or so. And then everybody else, you're just like, when does this guy get replaced? That's it. You know, there's only like 15 solid jobs. So if you're not drafting a guy that can hold that job down, I mean, just let's look at the quarterbacks. If you check out every quarterback in the NFL right now, I'm going to pull up at ourlads.com and look at the AFC, which is obviously loaded at quarterback. But when I look at the AFC, you say, how many guys in the AFC East are solid? Right now, everybody's super solid on Josh Allen. And then you've got the 2 rookies last year. Mac Jones had a better season, maybe the best season of any of the rookie quarterbacks. Zach Wilson, I've made it clear how much I like him as a prospect, but I have nothing to stand on right now. And Tua, I never really liked him as a quarterback prospect. He hasn't shown anything at the NFL level. I don't think that he can necessarily even hold off Teddy Bridgewater from that job. So that's another reason why I just think, and assuming that Bill Belichick might not have the best season next year as a head coach, I think the Jets could make a move there. But how many quarterbacks are super solid in the AFC East? One. And then maybe we'll talk about it in 1 year from now. We'll say 3 or 4. Could be, but I would say probably at most maybe 2 to 3 a year from now. In the AFC North, not even MVP Lamar Jackson is super solid. Joe Burrow's solid. Lamar Jackson, are you going to pay him that contract? $250 million? Puts his body on the line every play. It makes me nervous. Can he do that? Can he be super valuable if he didn't have that extremely good rushing ability? Steelers pick is in, so the Saints made their pick. And the Saints picked Trevor Penny. So there you go. The Saints not picking a quarterback. They picked Trevor Penny. Makes sense. A lot of people said they were going to come away with a tackle. So they picked 2 offensive players for Dennis Allen. Joe Burrow, solid, but he's still only been there for 2 years. Deshaun Watson, if you're talking about Deshaun Watson as a very solid quarterback starting for your team, a guy that has just been, I don't even know how to comment on Deshaun Watson because we never really had to have this happen with such a franchise quarterback, star NFL player in the middle of his career. Maybe in 3 or 4 years, maybe in less time than that, we'll just think of him like in the same way we think of Ben Roethlisberger, which is everybody knows he's got this ugly thing in the past that kind of has been shrouded in mystery and nobody really likes it. But we all kind of just, no matter who you are, any of the NFL analysts I see, nobody brings it up anymore. It's only really fans that bring up that stuff. So maybe with Deshaun Watson, all of his stuff coming out in the social media age, it won't go away. And, it's just sort of interesting to think about the volatility of the quarterback position there in Cleveland. And then obviously Mitchell Trubisky, everybody wants to replace him already. So you've got Trubisky, Jackson, Burrow, Watson. How many solid starters there? AFC South, obviously Davis Mills, not solid. Trevor Lawrence, similar situation to Zach Wilson. Ryan Tannehill, a lot of people are already talking about replacing him. Matt Ryan, how many years is he going to really be there? 1, 2, 3. So that's how close the Colts are for looking to a new quarterback. AFC West, I don't know who Russell Wilson is. Patrick Mahomes, Derek Carr. Shocked that we've come full circle, I guess, on Derek Carr. Without any of the playoff success in a 10-year career almost, Derek Carr treated as though he's something better than Kirk Cousins, and I don't know why. But maybe with Devontae Adams, he will be. I'm interested to see what the Raiders do. And then Justin Herbert, new to the NFL, love him, think he's great. In the entire AFC, how many super solid quarterbacks are there that will definitely be starting in, say, 3 years? I'm saying, and I'm going to be generous with super solid, but I'll say Herbert, Carr. I don't know why. I just hate that because it's like what if the Raiders don't win a playoff game for the next 2 years? Are you really going to stick with Derek Carr if they go 2 more years without a playoff win? Herbert, Carr, Mahomes, Wilson, Lawrence, maybe Watson, Burrow. If I'm being generous, Jackson. I still think he could get traded in a year. Wilson, Jones, Allen. I'm being very generous. If I wasn't being generous, Allen, Jackson, Burrow, Watson, Wilson, Mahomes, Herbert. I would say 7 if I wasn't being generous. NFC, Dak Prescott, Daniel Jones, no. Jalen Hurts, no. Carson Wentz, no. Justin Fields, putting him in that category with Wilson and Lawrence. Don't know. Goff, no. Rodgers, he's 39 years old, but let's just say yes. Cousins, no. Mariota, no. Darnold, no. Winston, no. Brady, no. In terms of will he start in 3 years? Murray, No. I mean, he's just all over the place. Don't really trust his commitment. Stafford, yes. Garoppolo, no. Lance, no. Locke, no. And this NFC is completely wide open. The best quarterbacks, 2 years. If you're saying who are the guys in the NFC at quarterback who you're like, they'll be starting in 2 years for that team. Dak Prescott because of his contract. Aaron Rodgers because I'm sure he'll still be great in 2 years. And because of his contract. Matthew Stafford because of his contract. There are 13 open jobs in the NFC potentially in 2 years and within the next 2 to 3 years. If I wanted to be nice, I'll give Kyler Murray in there. If I wanted to be nice, I'm not going to do it to Tom Brady. He's 45 years old. If I wanted to be nice, Kirk Cousins is in there. And if I wanted to be generous, maybe no, I'm not giving it to anybody else. So I'm saying that, there's like so many openings here in the NFC at quarterback over the next 2 years. And that's why I'm saying don't draft a guy just to throw a shot in there. Why are you just throwing a shot in there so that you wind up in a Daniel Jones situation in 2 to 3 years, in a Jalen Hurts situation? You don't need to draft Jalen Hurts again in the second round. You can find Jalen Hurts in the fourth round, I think. And in this draft, maybe Sam Howell is available there. We're 2 hours into this live stream. Thank you for sticking with me here as I'm kind of missing the whole thing. But, well, Kenny Pickett stays in Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Steelers select Kenny Pickett. He was my highest rated quarterback in the draft. I do think Sam Howell is a better fit for the Seahawks. But as you know, I watched every quarterback for this draft class last year, week after week after week. I ranked them. And Kenny Pickett was the only guy that was having a fantastic season. And he did have a fantastic season. He had that sort of Joe Burrow leap or Zach Wilson leap. His first 3 years, no good. Hadn't put a lot there to make you think that he was going to be a quality draft prospect or draft pick early-ish. And then he had the measurables. He just doesn't maybe he's in that Mac Jonesy thing, but I've heard him called a more athletic Kirk Cousins. So Kirk Cousins is a guy that if he was in a draft, where would he go if he knew that he was going to be Kirk Cousins? He went in the fourth round, as I said before, in the 2012 draft. But where does Kirk Cousins go if you know that he's Kirk Cousins? Well, the Vikings knew what Kirk Cousins was, and they signed him twice to mega contracts. So I think this is reasonable. When you're the Steelers, there's a very good chance Kenny Pickett will win that job. And there's a very good chance that Mitchell Trubisky, if they go say, oh, no, Trubisky is the starter, then he's going to lose it within the first 3 weeks of the season. I just can't imagine that he's going to be there for very long. The Chiefs have made a trade, and the Chiefs have traded up. How many trades now have we seen in the draft, including before the draft even started? Because you had the Giants taking the Bears pick from last year. You had the Seahawks trading for the Broncos pick, so that's 2. You had the Jets getting the Seahawks pick, so that's 3. You had the Saints moving up for Olave, that's 4. But they'd also already traded for one of those picks, so that's 5. You had the Lions trading up, that's 6, but they had already traded up. They'd already gotten that pick in the Stafford trade, so that's 7. You had the Eagles trading up for Davis, that's 8, but they had already traded up for a pick, that's 9. You had the Texans trade down, which is not really a trade. I already noted that trade, but that was a pick that they had acquired earlier. So that's 10. You had the Washington team trading back. You had the Traylon Burks, A.J. Brown trade, so that's 12. You have the Saints, which I think I already counted that trade. You have the Chiefs, which already was a Tyreek Hill trade, and then they traded up. So that's 12 and 13. That's 13 trades. You have the Packers getting this for Devontae Adams, so that's 14. You have the Ravens here trading. Is this? It's not for Hollywood Brown. Oh yeah, the Ravens really traded far. No, I don't know. 15. Patriots traded back. Vikings traded back. So yeah, you've had like 15 picks moved around here. 15 trades already involving first-round picks, and you got to think that the Chiefs are moving here for a receiver. If you've got any comments, please let me know. Jermaine Johnson's still on the board. Not sure where all that hype came from on Jermaine Johnson. Didn't really see him as a top prospect. People just kept talking about him, but didn't really see him as a top prospect. George Karlaftis is still out there. Looking at the wide receivers, Garrett Wilson gone, Drake London gone, Jameson Williams gone, Chris Olave gone, Traylon Burks gone, Jahan Dotson gone. So is this Sky Moore, George Pickens, Christian Watson? I've been watching Goodell and the Kansas City pick in the 21st. Trading up is cornerback Trent McDuffie out of Washington. Kansas City had to have them some Trent McDuffie. The cornerback, finally, another cornerback is drafted. This is the first cornerback drafted since Ahmad Gardner at pick 4. So you had Stingley at 3, Gardner at 4, McDuffie. He goes 21. Kansas City wanted to get their guy there. And seems to be a good pick. Very interesting draft so far. Let's talk about predictability and unpredictability. Nobody obviously mocked the Lions trading up for a receiver. I don't even think I ever really considered it. People had the Saints trading up, but like quarterback, I didn't see. Receiver makes some sense. None of the trades came there. Charles Cross to the Seahawks was mocked quite a lot, if not the most often mocked. So there was no real surprise there. No surprise there. Makes sense. I mean, just love Jameson Williams. Love that pick for the Lions. Eagles. Love that pick for the Eagles to get Jordan Davis. Surprised, I guess, that they traded over the Ravens, but the Ravens still get Kyle Hamilton, so I don't think that they're mad about it. And now a surprise, Kenyon Green going 15th, I think is surprising. Jahan Dotson going 16th is surprising. Zion Johnson going 17th isn't very surprising. Traylon Burks going 18th is a little surprising. But the big surprise there, obviously, is A.J. Brown getting traded to the Eagles. Good for the Eagles, good for A.J. Brown, and good for Traylon Burks. Saints Penning, not surprising. Steelers Pickett, not really surprising. And then the Chiefs trading up for Trent McDuffie, which Pete Briscoe says Chiefs moved up to get McDuffie, but I think they could have waited to take Kyler Gordon, who will be a better player, fills a needed corner. He's good, but they could have stayed in their spot. I just hate that evaluation. It's just so stupid. Like, there's people in the front office that have been working on this day after day after day. They've looked at Kyler Gordon. They've looked at Trent McDuffie. I might agree with you that Kyler Gordon is going to be a better player than Trent McDuffie. I might. A lot of people might. Some people might. Obviously, a lot of people don't. Different opinion. And I know that you're just sharing your opinion. But to say that they could have stayed in their spot, it's just stupid because they don't want Kyler Gordon. If they wanted Kyler Gordon, they would have stayed in their spot. If they were okay with Andrew Booth or Kyer Elam, then yeah, they would have stayed in their spot. First of all, not every cornerback is exactly the same. Not every cornerback prospect plays the exact same position. Quarterbacks play different positions. Cornerbacks have different specialties. Quarterbacks have different things they do well. Defenses have different things that they ask for. So it's just so stupid to be like, I'm going to do this grade because he's a fine player, but they could have gotten a totally different player somewhere else. It's just, what do you even care? It's like they wanted Trent McDuffie. and he wasn't going to be there at 29, which you readily admit to. So I just don't know, where are you getting this super strange desire to be like, I need the Chiefs to know that they could have had some fake value of fake draft picks, where it's like, what would have been okay with you to them give up? What if the Chiefs gave up nothing? What if they just traded pick 29 for 21 and they didn't even have to give up anything, and then they got Trent McDuffie? Would you criticize it then? I just don't really get that criticism. And I see it all the time where it's just like, well, they could have stayed where they are and gotten someone else. They didn't want somebody else. If you said that they could have stayed somewhere and gotten the guy that they picked, that's an opinion. It may even be like, yeah, I don't think Trent McDuffie would have made it 8 more picks. They just didn't want somebody else. Mike Reese, pace of draft seems quicker than 21. Totally agree with that. This is moving by super fast, 2 hours in. I'm glad to see that it is moving faster because I want to, eat and stuff. Fairway picks for me: Daniel Jeremiah, Aiden Hutchinson, Trent McDuffie, Zion Johnson. I'm sleeping well if I draft any of those guys. So the Chiefs felt that way about Trent McDuffie. 29-inch arms or something like that. So totally built differently, but Derek Stingley, short arms, and Trent McDuffie just said to have very ready to go cornerback skills. And obviously Washington has done such an incredible job of recruiting secondary players, cornerbacks, safeties. And I don't know what the status is of cornerbacks coming through the pipeline next. If you do, shoot me a shot. But seems like the Chiefs just really, wanted to get a cornerback there that could do what they wanted. And I'm trying to figure out what the trade offer is. Not exactly an offer. The Chiefs trade 29, 94, and 121. So the Chiefs gave up picks 94 and 121. Probably 2 players that will, whoever gets picked, probably players that won't have an impact in the NFL. So let's grade them and get really nitpicky and worry so much about the fact that because the Chiefs, didn't want Kyler Gordon instead of Trent McDuffie, wanted Trent McDuffie, totally different player than Kyler Gordon. They gave up 2 picks this year, one of which would have been a special teamer, and the other one would have flamed out in 2 years and been cut. So big fucking deal. I just don't really get these grades and all this kind of crap. Here's 5 hours ago. The Chiefs only see 16 to 18 true first-round players in the draft with 12 picks and needs at wide receiver, edge, and cornerback. They're a strong trade-up candidate. However, sources also say they like the 30 to 60 range. So a late-round trade back is also possible. So there you go. Kansas City had 12 picks. They had an abundance of picks. They had too many picks. They had Trent McDuffie as one of their 16 to 18 true first-round players in this draft. He might have been the last one available even. And Kyler Gordon wasn't one of those guys. Andrew Booth wasn't one of those guys. The Chiefs didn't want one of those guys. So they traded up by using their abundance of draft picks. And the Patriots, doing what the Patriots always do, they trade back and add a couple of things to do what they want to do. I just hate these stupid things that people say just to say stuff. It just feels so... things you say, it just feels like, well, I'm a draft analyst, so I have to say this. The Packers select Quay Walker, linebacker out of Georgia. The Seahawks have been mocked to Quay a bit in mocks for the 2nd round. And then he started getting first-round buzz. The Georgia linebackers, that means that Quay Walker does go ahead of Nakobe Dean. By the way, Jermaine Johnson, is he going to be a 2nd-round pick? Is Jermaine Johnson going to follow the Seahawks at pick 40? If they even like him? Haven't seen the Seahawks trade up into the 1st round yet, and they won't, I don't imagine. Buffalo Bills on the clock after the Packers select Quay Walker. Obviously, the Packers parting ways with Darius Smith. and Quay Walker, very talented guy. It's been hard to sort of judge a lot of Georgia players, especially maybe the Georgia linebackers, because they're all so talented. And when you look at the Packers and their defense, you see Rashawn Gary on one side, Preston Smith on the other, Devondre Campbell in the middle, and then you've got Chris Barnes. So Quay Walker could probably come in there right away for Chris Barnes. And then you've got maybe the best 3-4 linebacking crew in the NFL, which is fronted by Jaron Reed, Kenny Clark, and some guy named Dean Lowry. But Kenny Clark, fantastic player. Jaron Reed, decent player. And Preston Smith, pretty good linebacker. Rashawn Gary, very exciting pass rusher. Devondre Campbell was arguably the best player on the entire defense last year for Green Bay. Secondary, Darnell Savage, Adrian Amos, Eric Stokes, a first-round pick last year. Jair Alexander, the Seahawks didn't draft him in 2018, unfortunately. And Rasul Douglas. So really, the Packers there, they add Quay Walker instead of a wide receiver, and that might give them a case as the best defense in the NFL with, surprisingly, with defensive coordinator Joe Barry. But offensively, you see Aaron Rodgers surrounded with Randall Cobb, Sammy Watkins, and Alan Lazard, and Amari Rodgers, third-round pick last year. I didn't really even mock a receiver to the Packers in the first round this year. It could happen. It could happen right now. But I don't see Green Bay doing that. It's just not what they think is valuable. And when you look at the second round and you see guys like Sky Moore and potentials, some of the other potential guys to fall there, they're not going to be pressured by a run on wide receivers. Paul Heffernan, thanks for the comment, Paul. Which player are you most surprised is still available in this draft? Let me share my board here. It's not my board, but let me share the board. The Buffalo Bills pick is in at 23. The Cowboys were talked a lot about trading up in this draft. So that didn't happen at 24. And when you look at the Cowboys and their needs, there was talk about them trading up for Jermaine Johnson when people thought that Jermaine Johnson would go there. And now Jermaine Johnson, if the Bills don't pick him, and that would be surprising if they did, but if the Bills don't pick him, there's talk about this. There's been a lot of talk about this, the Bills picking a Breece Hall, but I don't know if they would do that at this point with the people on the board. The Bills select Kaiir Elam, the cornerback. So they traded up, I think, to get Kaiir Elam right after Trent McDuffie went off the board and Quay Walker. So to answer your question, Paul, let's go to the big board. I'm still getting used to this streaming and working out the kinks. So if there's anything I'm doing that's annoying or that I can improve upon, then let me know. We'll fix that. But the big board for NFL Mock Draft Database, this is just consensus big board, okay? This is not any one person's opinion. This is the opinion of the consensus out there. Jermaine Johnson is the highest ranked player, number 11 on the big boards. And I think this just sort of speaks to the misvaluation of Jermaine Johnson as a draft prospect, more so than teams are passing on him. Jermaine Johnson was not that phenomenal last year with Florida State. You know, Florida State has been such a disappointing program. They had a slight moment in the beginning of the year where you thought maybe they were going to be good. And Jermaine Johnson, it's not like he was dominating out there like Chase Young or anything, you know. Came from Georgia, transferred to Florida State, is fine, has fine athletic stuff, is all fine. But is he the best player on the board? Let's see. We've got London, Williams, Davis, those guys are gone. Willis is obviously still on the board. I think he's like a fourth-round pick. I'm not saying he'll go in the fourth round. He could still get picked here at some point, but my grade on him would be like a third or fourth round pick. Chris Olave, Trent McDuffie, Trevor Penny, all gone. Devin Lloyd, I would put Devin Lloyd over Jermaine Johnson. George Karlaftis, I would say that, you know, his ability, he's got a ceiling there that I think is is higher than Jermaine Johnson, and as a pass rusher, could definitely have that impact. Where maybe it's just sacks, but sacks are pretty good. I think that George Karlaftis, I think he's undersized a little bit. He's got this baby face, he's just such a young looking guy. You're kind of surprised to see him in the NFL, which I don't know if that's a knock or not. I would put it on his red flags for sure, baby face. Kenny Pickett, speaking of baby face, Kenny Babyface Williams, or whatever his name is. Traylon Burks is gone. Zion Johnson gone. Andrew Booth, Joe Marino and the Draft Dudes podcast. I listen to that sometimes. They had Andrew Booth rated higher than any cornerback in the draft last year, including Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn, which I was shocked by. Nobody else agrees with them. Doesn't mean they're wrong. I like that. I don't want everyone to have the same opinion. How boring, how stupid. I don't want to hear everyone have the same opinion. So I like that, but here the NFL is answering to that opinion with a disagree. They don't believe it. Cowboys on the clock. Tyler Linderbaum could be the pick here for the Cowboys. Would make some sense, I think. Tyler Biadasz, I think, is the center. So maybe he's still a guy that they are pretty happy with. Good thing there's no Cowboys fans watching this. I probably would get a lot of hate for that. Devontae Wyatt, he's a fantastic prospect, I thought. I don't know why I think that he's still on the board because of just positional, just people were going on the wide receiver run, and now we're on a cornerback run. And so I think that Devontae Wyatt could be the best player available. Dax Hill, incredible athleticism, versatility, could be a potential target for the Seahawks in round 2 if he's still there, of course. Nakobe Dean, a lot of people had him as the highest rated linebacker, and his potential coverage abilities, which is something that, sure, Seattle would like to add there, maybe next to Jordan Brooks. I wouldn't be okay with, personally, if it was me making that pick in the second round, I wouldn't go crazy about Nakobe Dean or any off-ball linebacker. Lewis Seen at safety. David Ojabo is the best player available right now. But because of the Achilles injury and you're wiping out his rookie season for the most part, I see guys every year, good prospects, get completely knocked off track because they missed 2 weeks in training camp, or 1 week, or 2 or 3, or they're just in and out. We see this so often where all of a sudden a guy's not getting in the reps, not getting in the practice. He's falling behind the depth chart, doesn't move back up the depth chart. He's out of rhythm, out of chemistry, and you're pushing off his entire development for a year. I don't think it's a very good comparison or talking, but Kadarius Toney, one of my favorite players in the draft last year, just never really ever felt like he was on the Giants. And sure enough, 1 year later, there's talk about trading him. And it's I'm not saying that that's related to it's not like David Ojabo is going to get traded because he has an injury and he doesn't get in there. I'm just saying all of a sudden there's just so many factors that a lost year to me is just bigger than a lost year. It's potentially 2 lost years. And David Ojabo is relatively new to football. He has more things to learn and develop. He needs to be working, getting reps, practicing. So to me, it's a bigger deal. And the Achilles itself, healing and being better, is just is a question mark. Yes, Cam Akers tore his Achilles last July 30th or so, and he was playing in the Week 17, Week 18 games, playing in the playoffs for the Rams. That's great. That's fine. If you look at David Ojabo potentially joining an NFL team by October, November of this year, he's not going to, I assume, he may not even be active. He may honestly just go on IR and spend the whole year rehabbing, practicing in walkthroughs and getting him involved next year. So to me, David Ojabo and his learning curve and his development time and his injury, Cowboys select a tackle, Tyler Smith, so they did go offensive line. We haven't even gotten him here yet on the big board. But David Ojabo, to me, it's just to me, that's more of a 3rd round pick. even though he'll go in the probably early second round maybe. But to me, I'm more cautious than most, and I would say for me, he's like a third round pick. Desmond Ridder, just don't think he's like I just think he's like a fourth round pick. Arnold Ebiketie, some people had him going by now, but probably more of a early second round pick. He could still go here. I think he could go 30, 31. Kyler Gordon could go like in the late first round. Breece Hall is a very exciting, very good running back and a great running back. So in terms of like the positional value and everything, it's kind of up in the air. You see Tyler Smith, number 40 rated player. I like Bernard Raymond. He's got to be a consideration for the Seahawks in the second round. I like Sky Moore, super talented player. Logan Hall, Travis Jones. You're seeing like why I think the Seahawks are pretty happy about their 2 picks in the second round. Their pick at 72. I think take a player at 40, or trade 40 and take a player at 41, because I don't know. I mean, I guess just take a player at 40 and then trade 41, because, yeah, I mean, what's the team going to care unless they're trading up to get the guy that you want, which isn't going to make any sense. So take a player at 40, trade down at 41, because look at all these names: George Pickens, Kenneth Walker, Roger McCreary, Jalen Petrie. Okay, see Quay Walker, one of the bigger, I'm not going to call him a reach necessarily, but it's just like one of the bigger separations here between presumed draft value and where he's actually gone now. 19th overall. There was buzz about Drake Jackson going in the first round today. We haven't seen that happen. Have any of these other guys been drafted? I'm going to say probably not. So, Paul, to answer your question, who's the best player available right now for my money? It wouldn't have been Tyler Smith. David Ajabo on talent, yes, but with his with the stretch of development time, that's really difficult. Tyler Linderbaum, I want the Seahawks to take guys that really help right away. And what would you even do? Like Austin Blythe, he's not going to start for a long time for the Seahawks, but he's going to start this year. They gave him this contract to play this year. Tyler Linderbaum's not going to play guard. He's not. So I guess you would. What would you do with Austin Blythe? Just put him on the bench? Like, you just signed to this guy. So that's what I like Tyler Linderbaum. But I don't see him as like a second. That's not really what you're asking, but it's just like, I'm just trying to work this out. Where is there any way where it's like, do the Seahawks draft Tyler Linderbaum? I just don't see why. You're going to have one of those guys on the bench. You're not going to move Austin Blythe to guard. You have 3. So I don't know. I don't see any chance that Tyler Linderbaum goes to the Seahawks. Is he the best player available? He's the best player available. His best value and everything. He wouldn't be number 1 on my big board. Number 1 on my big board, I'm going to say, is Devin Lloyd. That would be the guy that I would say is the best player available. He's the best linebacker in this draft, I think. Even though Quay Walker went first, he's got pretty much it all. He doesn't have the most value, positionally speaking, but I think that he has all the potential in the world to, if the Seahawks did draft Devin Lloyd, he's got all the potential to be a defensive rookie of the year. That's how good he is now, and how good and how many impact plays he can make right away. But then you could take George Karlaftis, and you could have a guy who has a more value down the line. Because I think that's a guy who's going to go here in the late first round, and potentially he could be a 13 to 15 sack player in the future. And we're getting closer to the end of the first round. Or you could go with an Andrew Booth, who could be, competing to start on the outside right away. Although I just don't think the Seahawks have that value at cornerback that a lot of people wish that they did. Arnold Ebiketie is another guy who theoretically could be the even better edge rushing prospect than George Karlaftis and David Ajabo. Didn't even talk about Boy Maffei, who the Seahawks have met with. Very interesting prospect, but I certainly wouldn't say he's number 1 on my board right now. Breece Hall has got that opportunity to be number 1 on my board. And if you're okay with the position, then I think that Breece Hall is a guy that's going to make whatever team drafts him very happy. I got a light out here, but we're so close. Paul would love for Lloyd to drop the Hawks at 40. He might do it, because what's his face is still available. Nakobe Dean. There's enough guys there that you would think potentially he could fall. And Jalen Petre is a guy who's just high on a lot of people's boards, and would have positional versatility to maybe play slot, not necessarily safety. And he could make a lot of noise and make a lot of havoc, create a lot of havoc in the middle of the defense next year, and force some turnovers, which Seahawks, that's what they need, ball hawk. The Seahawks have had the Legion of Boom, and next they want to have the Legion of Ball Hawks. So that's kind of what they were missing last year is the turnovers. Let's see if I can get some light. Thank you, Paul, for your questions and your thoughts on these guys, Lloyd, Ojabo. I love Ojabo, I just want him to I just wish that it never had happened. I think pro days suck. I think the combine kind of sucks. I don't think that it has that much value to teams. I think it would be right for some players, and I think it would be right for some teams. But at the end of the day, who's it really for? It's mostly for the media, the league, the fans. And I think a lot of this time, if we're talking about, hey, sports come into the modern age, we don't need players to run a 40. We have GPS data. We have all kinds of data that picks up what's going on without having to do it. Now, I'm saying that, yeah, there are certain players and certain teams and certain situations where a pro day, a meeting, an interview, it's going to be useful to the teams. That's why they participate in a lot of them. It's going to be definitely beneficial to the players. But what if, and we did this. We had this happen in 2020. Everything went virtual. We didn't have exactly the same. We didn't have a combine. And the Ravens select Tyler Linderbaum because they're the Ravens and they always get the best players in the draft. So there you go. I mean, that's going to be a steal pick once again for the Ravens, who added Kyle Hamilton and Tyler Linderbaum. So I don't believe in draft grades, hate them, but the Ravens are going to get the highest, I think, from most people out there because they got Kyle Hamilton and Tyler Linderbaum, maybe two of the top 5 all-around football players in this draft. And so, yeah, Tyler Linderbaum goes to the Ravens. But, yeah, I just hate pro days. I hate the combine. I don't hate it. It's just like I don't see – I want to – when we had 2020, I think everyone did fine. In 2021, things were still pretty limited, and everyone did fine. The draft went fine. I think that things will be fine if we rid of this. David Ojabo could have torn his Achilles at any point, right? So he could have torn his Achilles in a game at Michigan. He could have torn his Achilles in week 1 of his rookie season. It's just part of life. It's part of the game. It happens. It's unfortunate. But to have it on the pro day, it's just a reminder to me that, well, I see I've got another trade here. The Jets moving into pick 26. Trades are flying off in a flurry. Another sign to me that it's just a bad draft class. And you could say that it's a good draft class because people are trading up. But I think there's also teams that go, well, I don't really give a shit that hard about staying where I'm at. I'm looking at the whole board. I'm not there's nobody that's making me that anxious. And then you've got the teams that are trading up going, well, I like that guy. And I'm not really worried about my picks on day 2 and day 3. So I'm going to trade up. We're not seeing any movement of future picks, which I didn't expect us to. And we're seeing teams move around for, low value, crappy value, really. relatively speaking, just goes to speak, I think, about the quality of the class. But who the Jets going to pick here? The CBS big board talks about how they need cornerback, edge, linebacker, and receiver. We know that they drafted a cornerback. We know that they drafted a wide receiver. So would they draft an edge, Jermaine Johnson? Probably. I believe there was real hype between Jermaine Johnson and the Jets, but not at 4, and now not at 10, and probably here at 26. I would think this is Jermaine Johnson. Look and see. Everybody's loving the Jets draft, as it's not so surprising. And yeah, the Jets select Jermaine Johnson, sharing the Twitter space here. The Jets trade pick 35, 69, and 163 for 26 and 101. So the Jets get a move up from the second round into the late first round, a move of 9 picks. And in addition to that, they give a up. How didn't Dog Kleiman tell me who they traded for? I just want to know who the Jets traded down with, because I don't happen to see it. The Titans, that's right. Because the Titans already kind of made a pick. So the Titans, again, it's just like the Titans they weren't getting that much out of this. They got the number 60 pick or whatever, but they also, my brain blows up when I try and think about how these trades exactly value out. All these trades are so confusing when you first look at them. But the Jets move up 60 spots in the other trade, right? So they trade 163 for 101. They move up 62 spots. So they move up 2 rounds. And they also move up 10 spots, essentially, to go out and secure Jermaine Johnson, who they were really high on in the top 10, and then just didn't get him there because they got Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. Like, they could have taken Garrett Wilson at 4, and they got him at 10. They could have taken Johnson at 10, and they got him at 26. And all they had to do was give up pick 69, so their early third-round pick. There's not really that much excitement about this draft. Titans also save some money by doing this, a little bit, maybe a tiny bit. So they saved some money, and they've just made a trade to acquire Treylon Burks, who they didn't expect to pay necessarily, but they also did trade away A.J. Brown's salary, I believe. So moving money around, Tennessee should have saved some money today, I think. And the Jets come away with Jermaine Johnson, Garrett Wilson, and Jermaine Johnson and Sauce Gardner. So hard to beat that if you're a Jets fan. Hard to beat that if you're Zach Wilson, who gets a little bit of help on the other side of the ball, and Robert Saleh does. We're going to get off a Dog here, who just built his empire on the back of others. So the Jets are making a hell of a lot of moves here, and the Bucs are on the clock. We've got 6 picks remaining. Are the Seahawks going to find themselves back in here? We're seeing so many trades. We've got the Bucs, the Packers, the Patriots, the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Vikings. The Bucs, Bernard Raymond, Boy Mafe, George Karlaftis, Devontae Wyatt is still on the board. Yeah, Devontae Wyatt wasn't a guy that I mentioned earlier time when I was talking about who could be the best available. But obviously, I think Devontae Wyatt could be the best available. Tyler Linderbaum and Jermaine Johnson now gone. Malik Willis, best available, or at least the highest rated on consensus available. Malik Willis, Devin Lloyd, George Karlaftis, Andrew Booth, Devontae Wyatt, Dax Hill, Nakobe Dean, Lewis Seen, David Ajabo, Desmond Ritter, Arnold Ebiketie, Kyler Gordon, Breece Hall, Boy Mafe, Matt Corral, Bernard Raymond, Sky Moore, Logan Hall, Travis Jones, George Pickens, Kenny Walker, Roger McCreary, Jalen Petrie, Christian Watson, Trey McBride, Sam Howell, Perry Winfrey, Christian Harris, Jaquan Brisker, DeMarvin Leal, Nick Benito had gotten some first-round love, Chad Muma, John Mechie, Leo Chenal. Now you're really kind of getting into the weeds here a little bit, but look at that board. I mean, that's why if you were trading down, why would you trade down? But if you really liked a guy and there's position, you take that guy. The Bucs could just get Devontae Wyatt right here and call it good. Oh, they made a pick, I guess. Because, oh wait, no, there's been a trade. The Jaguars have traded up. Oh baby. You'll all come screaming back to me once the Seahawks trade up for Malik Willis. The Jaguars are on the clock, trying to figure out what they want to do. Could be Devin Lloyd. Don't know yet what the don't know exactly yet what the Jacksonville Jaguars gave up. Looks like they traded picks 33, 106, and 180. So they didn't have to. They gave up less, or they gave up more than what it seems like the Jets gave up to move up more spots, which is weird. But the Bucs get a couple extra picks in round 4 or 5 to move down from 27 to 33. And the Jaguars, you know, they could add Devin Lloyd to the roster. They could add Devontae Wyatt. The Jaguars have selected Trayvon Walker already, so they're probably not going to take Devontae Wyatt. Take a look at the Jaguars roster with me. Offensively, we know that tackle has been discussed ad nauseum. So Bernard Raymond is on the board. We've got Cam Robinson, Ben Barch, Tyler Shatley. Obviously, they're not going to pick Tyler Linderbaum because he's gone. They signed Brandon Scherf, and they've got Jawan Taylor, who's got some injury concerns and just not a very solid right tackle at this point. And Cam Robinson is on the franchise tag, so I think tackle has to be a consideration. Wide receiver has to be a consideration. When you talk about Sky Moore, when you talk about George Pickens, when you talk about the wide receiver group, give Trevor Lawrence some help here. I think Sky Moore would be a good pick. Christian Watson could be a pick for them if they really wanted. If they come out of this with Trayvon Walker and Christian Watson, that seems like a very Trent Baalke thing to do. Defensively, when you look at the defense, I think that's an interesting part here because they signed Foley Fatukasi. They have Josh Allen, who they exercised his 5th-year option today. Malcolm Brown. Jay Tufele was an interesting pick last year. Devon Hamilton. Dwayne Smoot, Roy Robertson Harris. So defensive line has now added Trayvon Walker to that group already. At linebacker, could you add Nakobe Dean? They signed Foye Oluokun. They have Shaquille Quarterman. Outside linebacker, K'Lavon Chaisson. Cornerback, I don't think it's going to be a cornerback. Safety, it could be Lewis Cine. No, Andre Cisco, but they got to like him enough to not come up for a safety. So offensive line, wide receiver, that seems more likely. Nakobe Dean, maybe. Devin Lloyd, maybe. Bernard Raymond, maybe. And then you're going to have the Packers on the clock. I just have to close this out. I can't believe anyone's been watching, but I just have to close it out. We got picks in Charles Cross, Seattle Seahawks. We got Jermaine Johnson on TV right now. He's wearing a suit. I suppose that's not the surprising part. People wear suits, but it's very colorful. I think that was the point. Contracts. I'm trying to pull up just like minimum contracts to show just how much money Jermaine Johnson, the difference here. Because it's very interesting. We don't talk much about how these guys are fighting for millions and millions of dollars in this pre-draft process, just based on where they're drafted. And I don't know why now I can't find it, but I think it's just interesting, like how much different. Come on, I mean, you used to always have the SPO track. Okay, that's all right. Let's see what they're doing. So you see the board here. It's been very interesting. Good job. Thank you. Doing my best, but my voice hurts. I need to got some more light problems here, which is what God said after the Big Bang. I don't know. All right. Trayvon Walker. You see, $37 million contract for Trayvon Walker, $35 million for Aiden Hutchinson, $34 million for Ahmad Gardner, $31 million for Kayvon Thibodeau. And you're sitting there, it's like, well, it's only 37 or 31. If Kayvon Thibodeau had been the number one pick, that's $6 million. It's a signing bonus difference of almost $5 million. $4.5 million essentially, $4 million in the signing bonus for picks, for where teams valued you, for a pick, for someone else's decision, based on this sliver of a difference. $17 million for Ike Ekwonu, $15 million, $12 million, and $12 million for Charles Cross. So you look at the 8 and 9 picks. I thought Charles Cross could have gone number one. So $37 million for Trayvon Walker and $21 million for Charles Cross. Based on that's $16 million difference. And the cap hit for the Seattle Seahawks is a difference of $3 million. Almost $3 million. In a cap hit this upcoming year, $3 million, that's like a starter. That's like a starter, sometimes two, but it's like that's considerable cash. And what's it based on? Charles Cross, fantastic college player. Trayvon Walker, not a very fantastic player in college. So you don't get it by being a great player. You don't get, it's just, and I'm not saying there's anything amoral or immoral about it. Just fascinated by it. And this is what they have to fight for. Didn't see what the Bucks did. Or excuse me. The Jaguars traded up for Devin Lloyd. I think that makes sense. Like I said, he was probably the highest rated player on the board and not going to fall to the Seahawks. The Packers pick is in. And then we've got Patriots, Chiefs, Bengals, Vikings. Charles Cross, though, I think that's just fascinating. $21 million contract, $3.8 million cap hit this year. I mean, if Charles Cross is your starting left tackle and he's average, he'll probably be below average, but maybe not like bad, but he'll probably be like average to below average. Not a knock on him. It's just what happens when you're a rookie. But maybe he won't be. Look at Rashawn Slater with the Chargers, whatever. It's an incredible value. These guys are making $20 to $25 million per year. And so that's all money that you save if he turns out to be a top 5, top 10 tackle in the next 2 to 3 years. And that's an incredible savings as opposed to if the Seahawks had to pick Charles Cross at number 1, they're paying him way more than that. And it's just not as much of a value. So if you're Jermaine Johnson and you're thinking, shit, I keep reading these mock drafts where I go 4th to the Jets. Well, if Jermaine Johnson had gone 4th to the Jets, he would have signed a $33 million contract with a $21.5 million signing bonus. But because Jermaine Johnson went all the way down here to the Jets at 26, he signed a $13 million contract with a $6.7 million signing bonus. Do that again. $13 million, $33 million. The Jets and their fans are going, shit, I would have picked him at 4. And he's sitting there going, you would have picked me at 4, but you didn't. And it cost me $20 million. And you can say, like, well, great, well, go out there and earn your next contract. It's not going to hurt you. And you're still rich. I don't know, man. $20 million just because the Jets wanted a good value. I get it. I mean, that's the thing that he has. That's what the team has to do. But I feel like this is coming to a head. I feel like this is a situation that the NFL is just phenomenal because these guys haven't done anything in the NFL. And we've already proven that, it doesn't come down to college production or, it's like you can do everything at your power to increase your value. But if you play the wrong position, if you had poor timing on an injury, like David Ojabo would have been off the board by now. David Ojabo could have been the Seahawks pick. Seriously. He could have been the Seahawks pick, but he got hurt. Packers pick is in. Could it be Bernard Raymond? I'm surprised they haven't speculated a wide receiver. Andrew Whitworth is up there. I don't know why. Andrew Whitworth is taking this thing way too far with him being like the world's greatest guy. So much talking right now by Roger Goodell. Tomorrow, second round starts around 4, and the Seahawks will pick at 40 and 41. I expect to trade down from 41 if they can swing it, try and get some extra picks in the 6th and 7th round. Teams are more willing to give those up, but as we've seen today, there's just not a ton of value going around. I don't know why Andrew Whitworth is making the pick for the Packers. I guess, yeah, he's a free agent now because he retired. So he's not loyal to the Bengals or the Rams. He's not from Green Bay. He's taking his time here to get his TV time. I'm sure he's like a great guy. I'm not like ragging on him, but like, geez Louise, like he mugs. You know what I mean? Like he really mugs. It's very like dramatic. If you've been watching the Johnny Depp trial, then you know what it's like for people to mug for the camera and be dramatic. But he keeps talking. I think everybody wants the pick. And I'm sure he's saying like really nice things. I'm not listening to what he's saying. Tell me who the pick is, please. That's what we want. Someone's saying that the Packers will take Devontae Wyatt, but there hasn't been a pick yet. If it is Devontae Wyatt, then it sounds like, now other people are saying that it's going to be Devontae Wyatt. Yeah, it's going to be Devontae Wyatt. Devontae Wyatt, definitely this is a BPA pick. Doesn't have to be a wide receiver. Didn't really expect the Packers to want a wide receiver in the first round, and they don't, and they didn't. And I think that when you look at the teams that are going to be competing in the NFC next year. The Packers are maybe numero uno right now, and they didn't need a wide receiver for that to happen. But you look at that defense, like we said, the defense is sick. Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt, so they have 2 Georgia guys to a defense that was already pretty good, stacked, and they add Devontae Wyatt, maybe could be the steal of the first round, just because we're talking about pick 28 here. And Quay Walker could be a fantastic pick later on there. When I say this draft class sucks, I'm just mean like, relatively speaking, it's weak. Relatively speaking, the top 10 is like disappointing as opposed to a lot of other top 10s as prospects. Quarterbacks, we've seen 1 quarterback off the board at 20 to the Steelers. Not a lot of people probably would have picked him in the first round. Not a lot of teams probably would have picked Kenny Pickett in the first round. And so far, no other quarterbacks have been drafted. Doesn't have like that slam dunk offensive tackle prospect, though I hope it's for the Seahawks' sake. You know, I hope that Charles Cross proves that he's actually, you know, phenomenal. I mean, there's no reason not to like Charles Cross as the pick. It's just he needs more reps, and maybe the athleticism stuff is just bunk. Because he's got great athleticism. Everybody's saying that he's got great athleticism. His testing didn't match up with like those guys that typically go in the top 10. That's just a fact. Doesn't mean that it's right. Doesn't mean that I'm saying that he's not athletic. Everybody says that on his film, he's got incredible movement skills. Patriots pick is already in at 29, and then we've got 3 more to go. My throat hurts. The Seahawks. Okay, so we got 3 picks to go here. No Desmond Ridder, no Malik Willis, no Matt Corral, no Sam Howell. Seahawks haven't made a move. On Tuesday, Wednesday, Pro Football Network's Tony Pauline, as he does every year, started putting stuff out. Started, you know, and he's been putting out rumors and reports all month, as he does every year. Every year he goes on Rob Staten's podcast, gives a lot of inside information on the Seahawks. People get very excited about it. None of it comes true. People forget. The next year, he comes back. He goes back on Twitter, starts spreading more reports, more rumors, says he's got league sources, inside information, can't explain where the leaks are coming from. We still know ramifications of teams firing people for the leaks, probably because none of them actually come true. And then he goes on the podcast, or he makes out a tweet and makes an appearance. And by the way, he goes on a ton of podcasts. Goes on a podcast for every team. Because I did a deep dive on the Seaside Joe website. People love it. They just love hearing someone say, I've got inside sources. They don't want, say, like another person on their podcast, someone who, you know, just like says that, like, take an analyst like from PFF, I don't know, like PFF George. It's like ASAP. I love how like there's like ASAP Rocky, ASAP Ferg, and all the ASAP group, and then PFF's like, oh, we got PFF George and PFF Michael and PFF Donnie or whatever. What happens if you like leave PFF? Don't you like get upset that you like lose your Twitter handle, or that you have to like change that, or are you just tied to that PFF website forever? But you know, they don't want as many of those guys that are just like, yeah, I'm an analyst with an opinion. I'm a mock draft analyst. I love mocks and I do a bunch of analysis and I watch tape and stuff, because anybody can watch tape and anybody can watch a person watching tape. It's what I do. I just watch people watch tape and then tell me about it. And there's hundreds of those guys out there, and you can get it in so many different places. But if you say I have sources and I have reports, and you're going to want to hear these sources, people are much more intent to listen. They're paying attention. They're very excited. You're going to say reports. You're going to say words like sources. You're going to say all these things that make me believe that I'm not just hearing an opinion or an analysis of tape, or like say what I do at Seaside Joe, which is I just try to read the tea leaves. And obviously my tea leaves were not great this year, but that's just what I had to go off of. If I, with hindsight, I would say, yeah, I mean, Charles Cross is exactly what they needed. I said that if they shouldn't draft a tackle unless he's a left tackle, I was just surprised that he didn't turn them off for those reasons. And yet it does make perfect sense in hindsight. I never once said, like, my sources tell me Charles Cross is off Seattle's board. But if a person goes in there and says, I got sources, I got reports, I've heard this and that, league sources tell me, well, on Seaside Joe, I went through over 100 reports by Tony Pauline since 2016, not just for the Seahawks, because there were just like, say, a half dozen. I went over 100 reports, Eagles, Patriots, Bucks, whatever, name a team, because he goes on all these podcasts. Wrote them all down, gave you my score. Sure, I mean, we could easily verify this stuff. It's not stuff that's like, oh, it got changed because the circumstances changed. It's not like the Packers will draft, let's just say like this year, right? The Packers just drafted Devontae Wyatt. It's not like the Packers will definitely, my sources tell me the Packers are going to draft Jahan Dotson, right? So Jahan Dotson went 16, and then you go, well, he didn't get that incorrect, just Jahan Dotson went earlier. This shit is like early on in the draft, guy's going to trade down, guy's going to trade up, this guy's going to go here, this team is waiting to do this, this veteran is going to get traded here. Yannick Ngakoue was going to get traded to the Seahawks during the 2017 draft. And this, that, and the other thing. You can go to Seaside Joe to read that, seasidejoe.substack.com. He says these things are going to happen. He says he has reports. He says he's got inside info. And I can't tell you whether or not there's a problem with the information or if there's a problem with the reporter. But I can tell you this. When 95% of your reports are verifiably false, it's hard for me to understand why we're reading them. It's hard for me to understand why I'm responding and reacting to them. It's hard, when we live in a world on social media, the internet, Twitter and everything, when our discourse, when our town hall meetings have to take place on Twitter, and then all of a sudden you get everything hijacked by a rumor, by a report. And now the entire discourse and the town hall is overtaken by this report. And when it becomes an annual thing, every year, the same people are telling you these reports, and none of them come true. Like the 5% to 10% of things that become true or close to true are almost all wrapped in like reality that we already knew, where it's like, yeah, that's what anybody could have just got connected. You said that the Cowboys could have drafted any one of these three guys, and then they did draft one of them. That's not that interesting. It's not like, and mock drafters do that. You can't just say, well, the Steelers are going to draft Najee Harris. That was something that everybody knew. We've got the receipts from this year too. I've got receipts for all kinds of teams, not just the Seahawks, where it was like, this team's going to do this team's going to do that. Let's just pull it up. And here we are again. We've got 2 picks left. Is the Seahawks going to trade up for Desmond Ridder? When are the Seahawks going to trade up for Desmond Ridder? Thank you, Derek. Yeah, man, I know. Like, it's not good. I mean, my hands I've always been super over gestury. So I appreciate the note. I'm very over gestury. I've got 2 lights. And they're definitely. Now I didn't realize how spooky it looked in here. I could turn on the bigger light. I'm going to work on that for the next one. So thank you, Derek. The light's not great. Let's draft Luke Fortner at 40. Let me give you a shout out, Derek. I think that's early. I think that's really early. I think Luke Fortner could be available in the 4th round, but I might be wrong. I mean, I've seen him go in the 4th round, so that may not mean anything. He may go earlier than that. So I like what red ID says. I don't know what that means, but yeah. Maybe that's a light thing. So Tony Pauline, I mean, what were all the rumors this year? I'm just saying, where's the accountability for all this stuff? I don't have I was trying to think what was he said Washington was going to do something this year, and they didn't obviously do it. So last year we had all these reports, but what did Tony Pauline say was going to happen this year? That same year, Tony Pauline told the Seahawks would love to draft Dorial Green Beckham. Not the case. I just want to grab this exact report about Desmond Ridder. Tony Pauline on the Seahawks. If they trade down from 9, they will take Trevor Penny later on. So you could argue that because the Seahawks maybe didn't expect Charles Cross to be there, maybe that they stuck and picked Charles Cross, and they were happy with him than Trevor Penny, as maybe any team would have been, taking Charles Cross instead of Trevor Penny. Seattle will look to trade back into the 1st round with the Packers and take their quarterback, which I'm told is Desmond Ridder. I guess, again, you could argue that Desmond Ridder, if their guy is Desmond Ridder and we're not seeing any quarterbacks drafted, you could argue, I guess, that they're waiting until tomorrow to do it. But this report says that the Seahawks are going to trade down. They didn't do that. They're going to take Trevor Penny. They didn't do that. They were going to trade back into the 1st round they didn't do that. They were going to trade with the Packers. They didn't do that. They're going to take their quarterback, which we haven't seen yet. And so tomorrow it's all hinging on whether or not the Seahawks take Desmond Ridder. Still don't think they're going to draft a quarterback, but if they do, I mean, it's just, where's the accountability? Why are we talking about this stuff every year? Why are we talking about these last-second reports that never go anywhere? The entire history. How many times is the word Seahawks going to be on my Seahawks newsletter? On Tuesday night, he reported a rumor. None of it has come true. If there was a real leak, wanted to get to some of the older Seahawks rumors that he has spread. Didn't have Seahawks connected to D. Eskridge last year, even though he named like 4 teams that were. Said the Seahawks were going to pick Jalen Johnson at 27 in 2020, and that they were super high on Jalen Johnson, a guy who went past them several times, and in the late 2nd round. So there was nothing there. Had no sense of the fact that the Seahawks were going to draft a linebacker or Jordan Brooks in 2020. Said that the Seahawks Pauline had the Seahawks fans believing that Seattle was already working to move down in a trade with Green Bay, which, I don't know, he's obsessed with this Green Bay connection, I guess. There's nothing to connect there. He said that Frank Clark would not get traded. He would definitely get nothing more than a 2nd-round pick. He was traded for a 1st and a 2nd-round pick. He said he could go to the Jets or the Colts and the Chiefs, to be fair. And he said Pauline told Rob Staten that the Seahawks could look to a cornerback in 2018. In fact, they drafted Rashad Penny. So he was wrong about that. And in 2017, he said the Seahawks could target outside pass rush in round 1. They didn't take outside pass rush. They took Malik McDowell. So that was incorrect. This is where people go. But in 2016, he said that Jermaine Ifedi is the Seattle Seahawks type of player. Didn't have any inside information. Jermaine Ifedi was a late round pick. He was the most common mock draft pick for the Seahawks in 2016. He was, I think this is a line straight out of something that like Lance Zierlein had written about Jermaine Ifedi. I mean, just saying what anybody could have read on the internet. He said the Seahawks were one of 10 teams that were a match for Jermaine Ifedi, and he had Ifedi, and he was routinely mocked to the Seahawks. And Shale Kapadia for ESPN basically said this is a Jermaine Ifedi type team, so it's a perfect fit, which everyone was saying. He said the exact same thing about Tyson Brayler, who didn't go to the Seahawks. He said that they wanted Dorial Green-Beckham. They didn't get Dorial Green-Beckham. So that's my thing with these rumors, man. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of these baseless rumors evading our spaces for the Seahawks, where we talk about, things that have validity and things that don't. And so it's like, I understand it's a very competitive market. I understand that it's very tough to make it through and break through and to get invited on the podcast. I don't get invited on the podcast. I don't have any inside reports, and if I said that I did, maybe I would get more, because you could just basically sit down with a pen and paper and go, okay, what are the 32 teams? What are their needs? How would I mock it? How would I do this? How would I do that? What is logical? And then you just write in the word according to sources. And all of a sudden you have something more to say than the average person. 90 to 95% of these rumors, over 100 researched reports, 90 to 95% went nowhere and misled all those fans. And they just didn't do anything. And it just doesn't do anything. I love this one. Vita Vea to Washington is the worst kept secret in the league. The most, apparently, Washington was one of the teams not in on the secret, because that didn't happen. Browns will definitely select Ezra Cleveland. Actually, Cleveland definitely passed on Ezra Cleveland twice in that draft in 2020. I mean, these are not speculations. The Broncos view Justin Fields as a faster, more athletic version of Dak Prescott. Faster, more athletic. I don't know how that's different. Broncos, would you have passed on a more athletic, who is an athletic player already? Would you have passed on a more athletic Dak Prescott at pick 9 in last year's draft? The Patriots want to come up with a quarterback, whether it's a trade up for Trey Lance or Justin Fields, or a trade down for Davis Mills. Nothing on Mac Jones. By the way, Davis Mills, he's a first-round pick. That's what Tony Pauline had heard. He's a first-round pick. He wasn't. Maybe he likes the name Davis because you can go down here to Davis Webb. He said Davis Webb would be a first-round pick. He said Will Grier would be a first-round pick. So pick your poison of some third-round quarterback like Desmond Ridder or Davis Webb or Will Grier or Davis Mills, and then Tony Pauline comes in last minute and says, this guy's going to go in a late first round to this team that could use a quarterback. And then people go, talk about it. Let's debate. Yeah. And then the draft happens. It doesn't happen. Months pass. People forget. And then next year, we repeat it. And we talk about the same bullshit that goes same nowhere. But I want accountability. I want someone to have some accountability. I want real reports. I want real inside sources. I want real league, news, insider news. I don't want fake news. Don't we all not want fake news anymore? Please, no more fake news? Is that possible? It'd be so funny if behind my back the Seahawks traded up for Desmond Ridder while I was doing that. But they didn't, right? I mean, so far we've got the Patriots picked Cole Strange. That's a shocker. Nobody had Cole Strange going in the first round. That would have been some great inside information for any reporter, but they didn't have that inside information. They say they have league sources with the Patriots. They say they have insiders in New England. Cole Strange, first center, first interior offensive lineman, or not first interior offensive lineman, first possible center off the board, Tennessee Chattanooga, goes to the Patriots, goes ahead of Tyler Linderbaum. If you were going to make your little inside sources reports, oh man, if you had taken more of a chance and said Patriots, Cole Strange, at least take those risks. because now I'd be questioning everything. Instead, I question nothing. I question the reports. I question you. I don't want this anymore. I don't want to come back here in a year talking about these same reports that suck ass, that don't do anything. 90 to 95% bad. Rumors. Baseless. George Karlaftis to the Chiefs at 30. Dax Hill to the Bengals at 31. And the Vikings will close out the first round. On the board tomorrow. To start things off, let's share this tab here. The Vikings are on the clock, and they've already made their selection. We just need to hear it. Lots of trades, so we've got a completely new second round ahead of the Seahawks tomorrow, which is another good reason to hold off on those mock drafts until after the first round is over. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the first pick in the second round, followed by the Vikings, the Titans, the Giants, the Texans, the Jets, the Bears, and then the Seahawks twice. I think the Seahawks want to trade down from 41 because they want to get more picks in the 6th and 7th round. May not seem like a big deal, but I think it could be to pick Carroll and John Schneider. Look at all these trades, lots of day 2 movement already. But we didn't see, we saw one quarterback go, Kenny Pickett 20 to the Steelers. I thought that was the only place that a quarterback really could go in the first round. I'm feeling now a lot of relief. Feeling a lot of relief. I'm feeling so much better now. We're past these. The Vikings picks Lewis Sign, safety, good. We're past this. We're past these really bad mock drafts that had the Seahawks picking quarterbacks. We're past these really bad mock drafts and really bad reports that said that certain quarterbacks would go in the first round or the top 10 when they had no resume for that. We're past most, just like we had to get past the Deshaun Watson rumors, just we had to get past the Colin Kaepernick rumors, just like we had to get past some of those other quarterback rumors, Matt Ryan, anything, oh God, I want Matt Ryan. Why? And we get past all that. And now we get past this first round. Thank God. No Desmond Ridder, no Matt Corral, no Malik Willis, no Sam Howell. I think that would be the guy that I think the Seattle targets on day 2. If they target anybody, I don't think they will. They're happy. Drew Lock, Geno Smith, Jacob Eason, and then I think they add a veteran. We have to get past the Baker Mayfield thing. Then that'll be in the rear view. I was waiting weeks, since March 8th, 2022, when Seahawks traded Russell Wilson, waiting weeks to get past this part of the year where, people were just saying such crazy things and just wanted to get past it because I was like, it's just unfathomable that anyone would think this would be smart for the Seahawks to take one of these quarterbacks in the first round, given what they need and what they have to do and the quality of quarterbacks in this class and the quality of quarterbacks in the next year's class and Pete Carroll's personal valuation of the quarterback position, which is not as strong or as high as so many others out there, which is fine. It's just, you can disagree with it. That's fine. I'm just going with the reality. And I'm trying to stick to reality, which is why I do go off on tangents. Derek, appreciate you. I appreciate you. So don't worry. That's all good. A lot of good, points here. People can read them in the chats. But I think, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good that the first round is over. Surprised by the Charles Cross pick, but not. It's like, yeah, that's what they needed. A left tackle. I always said, go get a left tackle. So I just didn't know that Charles Cross would be fit all of their needs at the position. And he does, apparently. So I think that's a day 1 starter. Could have some rough patches. I guess just run to the right side or, don't worry about it because the Seahawks, they've got better pass protection. Nothing against Dwayne Brown, but they've never had a guy quite like this. So I haven't had a guy at this age of his development since Russell Okung. So it's been 12 years. That's it for the first round Seaside Joe Seahawks special. Welcome to the Seahawks Charles Cross. Tomorrow, picks 40, 41, 72. Expect some movement. I also expect Mookie Alexander to come back and join me. So hit subscribe or whatever. Doesn't really matter. And yeah, I've enjoyed doing this with you. And thanks for watching. 3 hours and 15 minutes of Seaside Joe Seahawks coverage. Most of it, one crazy guy talking into a microphone alone and never stopping, really talking or moving his hands, as Derek points out. And I got a lot of work to do to improve the quality of my streams, but this helped. That's it for episode of Seaside Joe. Hit subscribe, go to the Substack, and we will see you when we see you. Thank you, Lobster. Thank you, Roseanne.